And you know what I just thought of? I just said to myself, man, that conversation that we just had is something that would probably be good to record and just post.
That's so.
Uh, like some behind the scenes of the channel stuff. I need to keep that in mind because I feel like that would have been something good to just like not even edit or nothing, just record it and just put it over it, put it out, put it onto the channel raw just like that.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, to anybody out there in the audience, man, we have a lot of candid conversations when we are not recording. So, some of that information or exchanging of information might be useful to others out there as well. But, moving along, JD Wins, Dogon SS. Of course, we are here once again for another edition of the Conscious Approach channel on YouTube. Major shouts out to everybody who's been hitting the subscribe button, leaving those comments, and hitting the like button. We certainly don't take it for granted. I know I don't subscribe to everything that I watch, and I damn sure don't hit the like button every time I watch a video. So I know the investment that it takes to actually put in the effort to mash some of these buttons. So I don't take it for granted, and we certainly appreciate it. So yeah, we are here, June the 3rd. Hope everyone is having a great week. Before we get things kicked off, I want to say, as always, check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music. We are now available in those spaces as well for anyone who is not in position to check out the YouTube videos. We just want to be any and everywhere possible for you to be able to engage with the content. We are also now on TikTok, so you can also engage with the content on TikTok as well. Check us out at Con Approach on TikTok, CONAPPROACH. And otherwise, if this is your first time catching wind of what we like to do here on this channel, strap in, buckle up. Hopefully you enjoy it. And if you don't, I hope you come back because you want to give us another chance. Is that it? Is that pretty much it for the pleasantries? Did I forget anything?
That's about it. I think we're good on that.
So yeah, we'll go ahead and we'll get right into it, man. Got a lot of interesting topics to talk about tonight. First thing that we are going to discuss is comments made by Kendrick Perkins in relation to Anthony Edwards, the Ant-Man. Kendrick Perkins does not believe that Anthony Edwards can be the face of the NBA, essentially because of Anthony Edwards' somewhat unstable personal life. I guess is the nicest way to put it. Kendrick Perkins believes that in order to qualify as face of the NBA, you've got to have your house in order. He cited other previous faces of the NBA and the fact that they were all family men. And he is saying that because Anthony Edwards does not fit that mold, he couldn't be face of the NBA. So I thought that this was interesting comments. I tend to ignore all of these goofy conversations surrounding the NBA, one of those being face of the NBA. I don't really think fans care about that. But then again, I'm not a casual. So maybe I've been watching this stuff and I've been a hardcore fan for so long that I am far removed from the sensibilities of a casual fan. Maybe casual fans really do care about who the face of the NBA is. To me, it's goofy conversation. I've never cared about that. But this says Kendrick Perkins doesn't think Anthony Edwards can be face of the NBA. Gotta be a role model. Kendrick Perkins doesn't think Anthony Edwards is the face of the NBA due to all doesn't believe Edwards fits the mold to be the face of the league. According to Perkins, the face of the NBA should be a family man who stays out of drama. Edwards is currently involved in multiple paternity suits, including one with a woman named Howard that has made headlines due to the details of the case. We have actually covered this woman, Aisha Howard, on the channel before. So if you get any time, feel free to check that video out. Now, I'm not going to read any of Perkins' quotes because we're going to go ahead and let the man speak for himself. The article goes on to say, Perk's take might have a few holes in it, and several of the names he mentioned had their issues with women off the court. Magic Johnson retired from the league after contracting HIV from hooking up with multiple women. Shaq has admitted to being a terrible husband, and the late Kobe Bryant was accused of, the R word and hit with criminal charges for felony sexual assault. During NBA All-Star Weekend this year, Edwards admitted he didn't want to be the league's leading man and felt Victor Wembanyama could carry the title. So here is Kendrick Perkins speaking on his belief that because of his off-the-court situations, Anthony Edwards cannot be the face of the NBA.
Here's the bigger picture, right? You got to check the boxes when you're the face of the league. Yes, we know you got to have your signature shoe. You're going to be in commercials. You're going to have the highlights. You got to have the game. But you know what else you got to have? You got to be a role model, right? And things outside the lines matter. Now, if you go down the list of all the faces of the league in the history of the game, you look at Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Shaq, LeBron, Steph. What did they all have in common? While they was playing in the league, they all were family men. They all were married with kids. And if you think that don't play a role as far as the role model, this is facts. This is not something that I'm making. Hold on. But this is not something that I'm making up. Now, what happened? What happened to them after they retired? That's their business. But while they are playing on what's playing, they were family men, married with kids.
Well, let's say this. First of all, let's be fair here. Here's what I mean by that. I get where you're coming from, and I understand that. When you talk about being the face of the league, it's not just about your game on the court. It's about what you do off the court. I think that we ain't gonna get into anybody's business. We don't do that on this show. Sometimes you've had people in the modern era who've made mistakes because in the age of social media and beyond, fellas, they put too much of their business out there. They talk a little bit too much, and you let people in to stuff that they don't need to be. It ain't none of our damn business, okay? But when we were talking about Crown and Ant-Man, we were just talking basketball.
It's the bigger.
All right, so there's Stephen A. Smith, of course, being the politician that he is. Stephen A. Smith tried to be, the fair-minded political person out there, keeping the ship afloat, so to speak. But Kendrick Perkins, man, there he went once again. And this is at this point ESPN's most front-facing NBA talking head. Outside of Stephen A. Smith, probably. I think outside of Stephen A. Smith, I see Kendrick Perkins talking NBA basketball more than anybody else on that network. And I think it is a travesty that that Inside the NBA is going to be broadcast on that same network. But so what did you make of that exchange and what Kendrick Perkins had to say about Anthony Edwards not being able to check the boxes of face of the NBA because he's like not a family man and not married with kids and all this other stuff?
I mean, I agree with it. I agree with the overall premise of the argument that, like Stephen A. Smith said, I agree with, you have to have the game on the court and all this other stuff, but you also have to have, your off the court, matters in order, which is completely understandable, to be a role model, which is understandable, all of that good stuff. But where it falls apart for me is, him naming people like Shaq and Kobe. Those guys, Kobe had a moment where he could be the face of the league, but he got into that trouble. And they quickly pivoted once LeBron got in the mix. Because Kobe was by default going to be that guy. Shaq wasn't really the face of the league, extremely popular, but he was by no means Michael Jordan. And when I consider this ambiguous term, face of the league, I basically contributed it to who the NBA deems as their major cash cow. Who is the guy with the narrative? Who's the guy that's marketable across the board? And honestly, from my time watching basketball, there's only been two of them, and that was Jordan and then LeBron. There might have been other guys that may fit that position, or they tried to force them in there, or they were perennial all-stars or whatever, but they never crossed that threshold of just mind-blowing world name superstar, because you can grab a woman from Malaysia and ask her, about Jordan. She's heard of Michael Jordan before, and you can ask that same woman about LeBron James. LeBron James, yeah, she knows LeBron James. You know what I'm saying? But then you start getting in the weeds there, and she may know Kobe, but she might not. Now Kobe's big, but he's not Jordan, and he doesn't have the brand recognition or the mind control over the masses like LeBron has. Those two right there. I mean, right now on TikTok, they got this thing called opening up the vault. So they're just playing all kinds of LeBron stuff, and then in retaliation, people start playing all kinds of Jordan highlights. And in the comment section, I mean, these guys, grown men, kids, everybody in between, just going at it as far as who's the best, who's got the best highlights, and all this other crap. So there's nothing like that. There's no other player to throw in that mix. Those have been the last two faces of the league, air quotes. And this is what my qualifications are, at least what I think they mean by that term. And so, no, Anthony Edwards does not fit in that build. I personally don't think his personal life has anything to do with it. I think it has everything to do with how he approaches the game, period. And how he approaches the game, even though he's passionate about it to a degree. It's another degree of it where it's just whatever, And I just don't think that he has, or he wants to be, that type of person. I think that they've been, like I've been saying before, is they've been looking for a domestic person to crown this to. They've had plenty of people. I would have been gave it, if I was an NBA, I would have been gave it to Luka, or Jokic, or even though Jokic isn't marketable, so I would have gave it to Luka. I would have been, whatever, SGA's there, let's give it SGA, but he's Canadian. Okay, Wemby's here, but he's French. It's so many issues that the NBA has because they need an American-born person because that seems to be their criteria. But all that stuff to say is that I don't agree with Magic Johnson being the face of the NBA. Larry Bird is arguable. I mean, I guess you can argue that. I mean, but I think I guess that's fair. I wasn't around for that melee. I guess that's fair. But I mean, once Jordan did what he did, the formula changed.
It did, yeah.
And so now they're looking for the Jordans of each era.
Right. Yeah.
And even as much they try to give it to Anthony Edwards, I don't think he has that. So I don't want to put it so much on his personal life, even though it seems to be quite a bit of a social media mess. I don't think he has what it takes, from, a basketball standpoint to be considered that. But what are your thoughts, man, on what Kendrick Perkins had to say about Anthony Edwards, saying that he can't be the face of the NBA because, well, he's not a good role model? What are your thoughts, bro?
Yeah, I agree with him in part. I don't think Anthony Edwards is built to be the face of the NBA. I don't think there is one currently, unless it's still LeBron by default. I don't believe that there is a face of the NBA. And I think the way that the culture of basketball is currently constructed, I think we may be moving into an age in which there isn't going to be one, because there's a lot of the facets of the culture and the ecosystem surrounding the NBA that cultivated an environment for a face to exist. A lot of those things are kind of disappearing. The NBA is more about camaraderie and friendship and cooperation and compliance these days, more than it is about the individual and individualism and the individual superstar. And I think the Jordan formula and the LeBron formula was effective and was what it was because the NBA at the time that those two individuals became the face of the league was still hyper focused on individualism. But if you look at a lot of these teams right now, and a lot of the best players on a lot of these teams, none of them are cut from that cloth. None of them are hyper focused on competitiveness. None of them really want to claim territory over another player. None of them really embrace the spirit of competition and want to instill fear in other players. They more so want to be about camaraderie and collaboration and, branding, getting together to, you know, enhance brand recognition. It's all about getting the social media metrics up and doing things that way. And when things are collaborative like that, I don't really think the spirit of competition is necessarily constructed in such a way that you're going to get a face of the NBA, at least not in the form that we've been used to seeing it. So I just don't think Anthony Edwards is cut from that mold. I will push back with you on one point. I do think Magic Johnson qualifies, but I'll say maybe it's a tandem of Magic Johnson and Larry Bird.
I agree.
So maybe they were both co-faces of the league during their respective heydays.
Yeah, because of their dynamic.
Yeah, and because of that whole thing going on. Yeah. and so from that standpoint, I would also say that maybe Kobe and Shaq combined were tandem faces of the NBA during their run when they were like, everybody hated the Lakers, myself included. And I'm like one of the biggest Kobe fans you'll ever find. But them together in that team was so polarizing that if you squint hard enough, you might be able to make a case for them. But I do think Bird and Magic together were a part of that fabric. I think they preceded Jordan, and then Jordan gave way to LeBron, and then LeBron along with Steph together. That's been the faces of the NBA in my lifetime. Nobody else fits the bill. And so to Kendrick Perkins' point, I see what he's saying, but I would amend it because I don't necessarily think it's about being a family man or being married with kids, but you do have to accord yourself with a certain level of discipline. And some of these names that Kendrick Perkins mentioned, we know their histories. These guys were not. Look, man, I got a lot of respect for Magic Johnson. In his heyday, family man is not what I would call him. The guy was a known serial womanizer. And I am not breaking news by saying this. That is what the guy was known for outside of playing basketball. Magic Johnson, I would imagine Magic Johnson's body count rivals Wilt Chamberlain's in his heyday in terms of the amount of bodies that Magic Johnson has. That is not exactly the prerequisite for the family man that Kendrick Perkins is describing in terms of what is required to be face of the NBA. Yet he was able to pull it off, not because he was squeaky clean, but because he was a little more diligent and disciplined with the way he went about doing his dirt. Same with Jordan, same with Shaq. Now, to be fair, those guys benefited from not living in the media age where your life is constantly on full display, and at any given moment, people can record you and all of that good stuff. But I really don't think that's an excuse, because all you have to do is just be disciplined. You know, if you got a lot of jump offs, if you got a lot of women, do what Drake does and make them sign NDAs so they can't talk. And just don't make sure that your personal business is being recorded. I feel like that's an easy thing to ensure happens. Mm-hmm. I don't believe, and for the record, and this is my personal suspicion, it's of course very speculative, and I've heard stories from others who I know. I'm not going to mention names, but I've heard various things. And bottom line, I'll just say, LeBron ain't squeaky clean, but he's the golden boy face in the NBA. Why? Because he, throughout the tenure of his time as quote unquote face of the NBA, he has been diligent enough to be disciplined in how he makes his moves. It is no accident that you never hear dirt coming LeBron James's way. It's because he ensures that does not happen. Mm. And when it comes to a guy like Anthony Edwards, he's just a little more sloppy and undisciplined in this way. And you can't be the face of the NBA when you're sloppy and undisciplined. You don't have to be married with kids and squeaky clean with a clean driving record, but you also have to be someone who's diligent enough to know the checks and balances that you have to put in place to ensure that despite the fact that you are doing these things, none of it is going to come to light because you are doing the necessary things and making the necessary precautions to ensure that that does not happen. And so on top of all of the other things in terms of his game and in terms of the way he communicates with the media and in terms of the way he approaches playing and all of that other stuff, these things also make him not necessarily fit to be the face of the NBA. But if we're going to center it specifically around what Kendrick Perkins' input is, you don't have to be a squeaky clean family man, but you do have to be disciplined enough to be able to keep your mess quiet. And I think it is clear at this point that Anthony Edwards is not good at that. I don't think it is a stretch for me to say that. We have talked about Anthony Edwards on this channel several times at this point, not because of anything speculative or rumors or hearsay, but because of things that have actually gone public with messiness in his personal life. Mm-hmm. And so when you lack that kind of discipline, I don't think you can be face of the NBA. So from that standpoint, I do think Kendrick Perkins has a point. I just wouldn't use those other names as examples, nor would I go so far as to say you must be a married family man, because clearly those are not requirements.
Yeah, and I think a good way of putting it is, you have to be, even though Jordan really wasn't a politician, Jordan just stayed to himself for the most part. But, I guess he gave a lot of politically correct answers whenever they asked him stuff. So you got to be a politician, a good role model. That goes with being a politician. And so, and when I say good role model, I don't mean like literally a good role model. I mean, like what you said, as far as like having the discipline enough to not have your dirt out there in the streets, because, that's what politicians do. They do a good job of hiding their dirt.
Right. Yeah.
So they look like a good role model in front of the public. And then when they have the camera in front of them, they say the right things. They don't act like a YN. And and Anthony Edwards has a foul mouth. He's always talking about the referees. You never know what he's going to do or say during the game. And so, yeah, man, it's a no. Now, yeah, we've seen LeBron literally get on his knees and ask for a call during the game and use expletives towards the refs, and Jordan too, but so, him being mad and frustrated at the time is one thing, but him going on his rants about the referees the way that he does, and getting fined by the league the way that he does, it just shows that the league don't even look at him that way. He don't look at the league that way. And it just doesn't feel like something he's interested in.
I don't think he cares. Yeah, the media this is the media forcing it and trying 100%. To. Yeah, the media. This is a media machination. The media is trying desperately to force this face of the NBA down our throats. This is a media contrivance. Like, no one is really checking for who the face of the NBA is, and a lot of these players don't give a damn. Like you don't know. In the age of super maxes and max deals and guaranteed deals and then endorsements and influencer contracts and all of this other stuff, the way that these players are making money now, no one feels beholden to any of these unwritten rules around these various leagues. Like, no one cares about keeping a squeaky clean image. These guys don't give a damn about being face of the NBA. They don't need it. Mm-hmm. Like, the media needs it. ESPN needs it. Yes. Like, they're the ones who need it. We don't care. I really don't think fans care, and the players definitely don't care. So, like, the money has made it. The money has made these guys too big to fail. They can become wealthy into perpetuity without caring about having a squeaky clean image, which would facilitate one being the face of the NBA. That is no longer something that they care about because they don't need it. The money is coming in from so many different places. it's not necessarily something that they prioritize.
Yeah, and they need somebody to talk about when Steph and LeBron are retired.
Yeah, I think they're shitting brick. I think
Yeah.
the media is scared to death of what they're gonna do when LeBron and Steph retire.
Now, what the hell are they gonna do? You know what I'm saying? And that's why Luka to the Lakers was such a big deal, because the Lakers need to be talked about every day like the Cowboys. It's what their business model's built on. So them always bringing this up is them literally brainstorming in 4K, you know what I'm saying, in real time, trying to get us to believe in whoever, you know, and they're just trying to see whatever the algorithm hits, and that's who they're going to talk about all the time. You know what I'm saying? So that's why they're like, hey, Joel Embiid or SGA. You know, it's like, hey, man, nobody's biting any of this garbage. And honestly, like I said, the level of fandom, brainwashisms that LeBron has right now, you're going to be hard pressed to find that again right now. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't see anybody having that level of fandom right now in the league. Not even Wemby. So, you know, good luck, ESPN, NBA, and all these other people in between, man, because y'all going to have a hard time replacing LeBron. And, you know, I'm not the LeBron stan, man. I can't stand the man. Okay. But at the same time, man, he is a cash cow. And I'd be a damn fool to say that he ain't, you know. So, yeah, good luck, NBA. But just trying to find a random dude off the street, you know, one of these NBA guys, and just trying to force him to be something like that. I don't think it's going to work. And Ant doesn't want to be that. And so by Kendrick Perkins, who gives a damn what he has to say? But Kendrick Perkins right here talking about something, he's not a good enough role model. Hey, man, I don't think that's your place. So I agree with Stephen A. On air, that's not your place to be sitting there calling a man out like that. But, hey, man, I digresses. Kendrick Perkins, you can kid rock.
I don't even think the NBA cares as much as like the media partners care. I think the media partners are the ones who are sweating the most over this. I think ESPN and whoever else is going to be showing these games, and whoever else has these opinion shows that talk about the games, they're the ones who are doing the most sweating over what we're going to do post LeBron and post Steph. They don't know what they're going to do. They're scrambling to figure it out. And yeah, I really do feel like whenever they have these face of the NBA discussions on national television, they're conducting on-air focus groups. Trying to figure out what is going to resonate most with the audience, because maybe they can latch onto that and then help to sort of usher in the new, you know, president, you know, the new POTUS of the NBA, if you will. But right now there isn't one. It's a vacant seat. It's LeBron and Steph by default. And, you know, again, who cares? I don't care. I think the media cares. I don't even know if the NBA cares. They made their money. They signed their $1 billion deal. So they, you know, and it's up to the media to figure out how they're going to cash in on this. And part of that, I guess, is trying to figure out who the face of the NBA is. But I can tell you this, it ain't going to be Anthony Edwards.
No, I don't think so.
It's not going to be Anthony Edwards. Dudley, sir, you are late. Dudley is in the chat. He asked when we set up the super chat. It's been a while, bro. We set it up a hot minute ago, man. Dudley also said LeBron also makes it known that he made the ecosystem of the NBA a lot of money off of him, and it's in their best interest to not stir the pot. That is also true. He does very passively aggressive play into he very passively aggressive plays into what he's done when it comes to player empowerment. So yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, good luck to the NBA. I'm gonna be here watching these games regardless, like I've said on several occasions, so I can care less who the face of the NBA is. Personally, I find all of these conversations to be incredibly exhausting. And yeah, largely I don't really care for Kendrick Perkins' brand of commentary, but I will say in this instance, he's like half right.
Which is closer than he normally is.
Yes. Yeah. So I can give him that much. I can give him enough credit for being half right. I don't think you need to be married, a family man, or all of that, but you do need to be a disciplined individual. You need to know how to move with discretion. And that is something Anthony Edwards doesn't know how to do. And to be honest with you, I feel like that's something most of these guys don't know how to do. Zion, John Morant.
Lord,
I
Zion.
mean, the list goes on and on. I mean, and so guys, they want it to be guys like Jason Tatum, but frankly, Jason Tatum is a boring individual. And I say that actually as a compliment to Jason Tatum, to be honest with you. But yeah, good luck NBA. I hope y'all, well, good luck ESPN and NBC and whoever else is going to be showing these games. I hope you figure it out for your sakes, but you know, quite frankly, I really don't care. So
yeah, but hey,
you know,
let us know down in the comments, y'all. Y'all feel as though Big Perk was right? You know what I'm saying? Do you guys feel as though Anthony Edwards can't be the face of the NBA because he's a bad role model? Or do you guys feel like he is? Or he's going to be the face of the NBA because, well, he's Jordan's son? You know, let us know down in the comments section. That's another psyop. Man, he ain't close to Jordan, man.
he's not.
I wanted to believe it.
He is nowhere in the same stratosphere as Jordan. It's just these conversations on these opinion shows are getting more absurd by the way. They really are. Most of them on ESPN, by the way.
100%.
And now we're gonna get into some hightail drama in the hip hop world involving two of the more popular artists in those areas. We got Cardi B and Offset. The two used to be married. The two are now separated and are in the midst of a divorce, and the divorce appears to be getting messier and messier by the day. But the reason why we are broaching this topic on Conscious Approach is because of an interesting wrinkle in these proceedings. Offset has decided to amend his divorce terms to include spousal support. He is insisting that Cardi B pay him spousal support. And you know, everything else is staying the same, you know, joint custody of the kids, and there's trying to divide up the assets and whatnot. But Offset is saying that Cardi B needs to pay him spousal support in lieu of the divorce. So this says Offset reportedly requests spousal support from Cardi B amid nasty divorce. Cardi B may be moving on to her new flame, Stefon Diggs. More on him in a bit. But she still has to wrap up her contentious divorce from Offset. Per TMZ, the former Migo just filed some new paperwork in court that might change the course of their process. Earlier this month, the Georgia rapper reportedly requested an unspecified amount in spousal support from the Bronx FMC. This is according to amended court documents reportedly obtained by the outlet. However, it seems like past moves in this divorce are still on the table, so this wasn't a massive change from what they have already advocated for individually. For example, Offset still wants joint custody with Cardi B concerning their 3 children. Also, he requested that her residence serve as the little one's main residence. But all this happened a while ago. In fact, there haven't been a lot of updates in the actual courtroom proceedings since Cardi filed back in August of 2024. When it comes to their social media presence, though, they spewed a lot of venom at each other in recent months. We will see whether or not this amended divorce response from Set actually results in some financial consequences for the leader of the Barty gang. For now, money hasn't been the issue here, as they both reportedly plan to cover their own legal fees. So perhaps this represents a fork in the road or just a new approach after some reflection. So I thought that this was somewhat interesting. You don't really see men involved in divorce proceedings requesting spousal support, much less a guy who is a proud YRN. You know, for Offset, you got to put the R part in between the Y and the N because the R stands for rich. So he's a young rich N word. You got to make sure that you put the rich part in there. You know, Offset isn't just a regular YN, he's a YRN because he's a rich YN.
Got it.
But you know, I'm interested to hear what you have to say about the fact that this guy's decided to go this route and seek spousal support from, you know, from his ex. Well, they aren't officially exes yet, but soon to be ex-wife.
I think it's a good power move by my boy Offset here. I think most men that are in this situation should also do the same. just flip the script a little bit. Now, like you mentioned, bro, Offset's he's a YRN, right? So he often brags about how much money he has, what he can buy, what jets he's flying on, and all that good stuff in between. So to sit around and file paperwork to ask a woman to pay him, um, you know, it looks a little different. That doesn't necessarily fit the braggadocious narrative. However, um, Offset has always come off as a very petty individual to me. Um, if you guys watched that interview that he did with that industry plant girl, what's that girl name?
Bobby off.
Yeah, there you go. Where I saw his personality, honestly, for the first time. I mean, he was just scolding the young lady, rightfully so, I might add. But in that interview, I realized how petty he can actually be. And dealing with Cardi B of all people, somebody who would rug men and have transgenders in the room with those men. Okay, what kind of person is this? Well, that's a petty ass person. So they were meant for each other, clearly. So I'm pretty sure their arguments got real intense. Yes, this divorce has been very, and they've been in the headlines for at least the last couple years. Now, we don't really talk about them. Okay, we don't talk about them at all. But this is an interesting wrinkle. And the reason why they're always in the news is because they're always going back and forth with the tit for tat. So I don't know who got in his ear. I don't know if this has always been a part of his plan, but I think it's wise on his behalf. Now, will he actually get it because of irreconcilable differences or X, Y, or the Z, or I don't know how they're going to figure out why that she needs to pay him, because I'm pretty sure the narrative is that he cheated first. So who knows how that's going to work? But I had to look it up, man, because I was like, hey, man, what's going on? So, and this is loosely Google searching, but it says that Offset's net worth is $32 million and Cardi B's is 101.
I'm seeing the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So get that bag, Offset. Okay. Hey, man, get one back for the fellas. All right, get that alimony, man, and we can champion this one, man. Hell, 1 out of 1,000 ain't bad, bruh. You're like the only brother out there actually doing this. And honestly, some other rappers probably would have been a little too proud, but not my boy Offset. So honestly, I'm saying get to the bag, boss. Why not? And some of the stuff that I've seen Cardi B say online about Offset, I'd do the same damn thing if I was him. But what are your thoughts, man, about Offset running around here, actually filing paperwork, trying to get the bag out of Cardi B? What are your thoughts, bro?
First off, let me preface by saying I think everything you said is correct. So my point here is not to refute anything that you had to say or to counter it, because I don't think you're wrong. But part of me with this situation is a bit conflicted, because constructively I understand it. You already read the numbers. I found the same thing, so you're not making that up. She has a greater net worth. So if any one of these individuals could perhaps be victorious in being awarded spousal support, it would be him and not her. So I get that much. But so on paper, I understand why this is okay. I also feel like it's somewhat a bit of justice, because strike one for the men for once, because it's always the men being extracted. And so maybe we can have a situation where a woman is being extracted. So I get that part too. I'm not hating on that. I'm not hating on that, right? I'm not hating on it. But what I will say is part of me doesn't like it. Part of me doesn't like it because I feel as though and you know how the internet works. I feel like this type of behavior on his part contributes to the overall narrative about the lack of quality men, um, you know, in the world, so to speak. Not to get too galaxy brain. I don't think that he's doing the wrong thing necessarily by trying to make the point of seeking the spousal support, but I really think, despite whatever conditions and circumstances may have led to the breakdown of their relationship, I really do feel like it would have worked even more in his favor from a PR and Q rating standpoint if he had not done this. Because then he'd be the man who is seeking joint custody of kids, right? So not only does he not want her to receive primary custody, which is usually how this stuff works. Usually we see the woman seeking primary custody, which means she gets the child support and she gets all of that good stuff. So not only does he want to be involved via joint custody, not only is he just trying to split all of the assets amicably down the middle, but he's also willing to depart from this situation with his head held high, not seeking any punitive financial damages, not trying to get any spousal support. And so, yeah, even though you're walking away with a less big bag as a result of this, you're still looking good in the manosphere because now women can't accuse you for being an extractor, and men can look at you as somewhat of an example for being someone who is and it's hard for me to say this because I hardly find Offset to be an example of the leader of a household, but a proverbial leader of a household, if you will.
Okay.
Because so not him specifically, but what it represents. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So from that standpoint, being the true alpha in the situation, the true leader, the man who says, I'm going to set my emotions and my vitriol aside, handle this as amicably as possible, let you go about your business, and all I want to do is be a part of the kids' lives.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like by going the route of seeking spousal support, he relinquishes his ability to be viewed in that light because now he's just in the mud playing the petty game with her. And now everybody else who has an opinion on the matter can talk about how he's seeking spousal support despite the fact that he's a YRN. You know what I'm saying? So it's a situation where I don't think either side of the aisle on this is right or wrong. I just think that by seeking spousal support, he forfeited the opportunity to paint himself in a more optimistic light. And it's a missed opportunity, but it's certainly not the end of the world. That's just kind of how I look at this one. I kind of agree with you as well. You bring up a good point. I think they both were made for each other.
Absolutely.
And so I think the explosiveness that this situation has been viewed upon makes a lot of sense given their respective behaviors. And so although I'm a bit disappointed at the missed opportunity because he's decided to try and extract her, I also feel like it's on brand with him, you know. And what else was I gonna say? You know, I feel like it's just consistent, and this is consistent and it's on brand, and it's not much of a cold switch. So I kind of just think it was a missed opportunity, but still not the end of the world. And I'm not at all surprised that he decided to do this because based on previous behavior, this is kind of where he's at mentally. So, it is what it is.
Yeah, and I'll say this. Now, this can get flipped. This can get flipped in a sense where, Offset is keeping it. He's keeping it P. Okay. Now, if we're following the rules of the P's, okay, they extract the money out of these slurs, and if this woman wants to sell her body literally and figuratively out here in this world, he's gonna get off of that. And see, he's not tricking, because she's the one that's giving him the bag. So in the I guess in the sphere where men are red pilled out. All right, where they're dunking on women constantly, and they actually take lessons and advice from peas. This is even though he has children with her, I mean, he's still in the lane where he's getting the bag up out of her. And that's play as far as I'm concerned. When you're dealing with this degenerate world, all right, and this underworld of how they do things, it's not so much a bad look when it comes to him, because he can flip this that way when it comes to his rap career and all this other stuff. Now, the 10 toes down, square business aspect of this, I still think that he's in the right, because that's what this economy is based off of. That's how it works. That's how marriage works. Whoever he or she or whoever has the bag has to come off the bag once marriage is over. You can guarantee if he had that one-on-one and she had that 32, she was going to take that money.
Oh yeah.
So it's just one of those things, man. If it was an amicable situation where they were both like, hey man, we're done with this, or whatever, whoop-de-whoop, divorce, and it's over. That could have been one thing, but I really think the fact that there's been so much scratching and clawing, so much public humiliation going on both sides of the aisle, this is a awful, messy situation. So why not take it to that next level of going, well, I'm gonna get your money now. How you like that? So all in all, the big lesson of this, I would say, is if you knew she would do it to you, I'm not saying to, whatever, man, but hey, man, in this world, bro, whatever makes you feel good. If Offset, or anybody that's in his boat that feels like, hey, man, there's been enough humiliation here, or she done pissed me off so much, or she done XYZ or whatever, and you're in that same position as him to get alimony and get paid and all that other stuff, and that's how you feel you want to do, then go ahead and do that. But then on the flip side of that, if you feel like, hey, man, I'm about my business, I don't need a woman's money, which is misogynistic. Okay. I don't need a woman's money. I'm better than it. I'm bigger than it. I'm the man. It's like, hey, man, it's whatever. You're entitled to that too. Me personally, if I feel as though she would have did that to me, then I'm doing it to her.
Well, even if I feel like according to that logic, then you definitely got to do it, because I feel like even if they don't want to do it, they're probably going to be advised to do it.
I got advised.
Yeah, then exactly. So like from that standpoint, he basically is doing what he has to do, because she definitely, now I think she's the type of person who, even if she isn't being advised to take it there, she still will. Mm-hmm. But I think there's a lot of, like, I would imagine when a lot of these situations going like this, I think I would find it hard to believe that there aren't situations in which, going into a process like this, both individuals predetermine that they want to be as amicable as possible. No hard feelings. Yeah, stuff went left, but we'll let bygones be bygones and just walk away. But somewhere along the way, one of them gets advised to seek something, and then it turns into a different direction because of that counsel. So like 9 times out of 10, it's going to go that route, either because they want it to, or because the counsel is advising them to take it there. So, like I said, I feel like this isn't a right or wrong position, but, from his standpoint, he would have really gained significant moral high ground by not seeking, by not going the route of spousal support, because then people can say, yeah, he may have did what he did, but number one, he wants the joint custody, and number two, he just wants to walk away without making it as financially messy as possible. So there's not much you can get on him for in the court of public opinion outside of whatever irreconcilable differences, stuff that he may have been doing. but I feel like he forfeited that opportunity by getting into the mud with seeking spousal support. But I also don't fault him for it because you got to do what you got to do. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I'm not convicted one way or the other, but I do feel as though there was a part of it that was a missed opportunity, because sometimes having the moral high ground is worth something, especially for men, because very rarely in relationship breakdowns do men ever have the opportunity to gain the moral high ground. And very rarely in these situations do women ever have to concede the moral high ground. I mean, oftentimes, even when she is in the wrong, because just by the merit of her being a woman, she's still granted the benefit of the doubt and given the moral high ground by default. So you know what I'm saying? And I hate that part of it, but such is the way the world is. So this was an opportunity for him to be able to kind of take a little bit of that power back. And he didn't take advantage of it, likely because he was advised not to do so. And I don't fault him for it, but I still recognize it all the same.
Yeah. Last thing I'll say, if my old lady was talking about me, the way that Cardi B was talking about Offset on the internet for the last 2 years, I'm taking her money.
Yeah.
Period. Ain't no conversation about it, man. Moral high ground is me cashing out on your checks.
Yeah, she's done herself no favors.
Nah, man, she been slime about it. And of course, it's Offset. So of course, out here dealing with this and dealing with that. Like, who cares? It's Offset. What do you think, you're gonna be faithful?
Well, we've talked about that here before, and that's a whole nother aspect of the conversation. But man, in her mind, I suppose she did. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what
Stefon Diggs. Is that the answer?
Apparently so. I don't know what these women go through with their decision making. I don't know. Don't ask me, bro. We have to. You know what? As a matter of fact, we need to get a woman on this stream. Anybody out there checking out this video, anybody in the comments, man, hit me up on the usual channels. Let me know, because we need to get into the pathology, because I can speculate all day long as to why. Because I've mentioned before the two fatal flaws in women. I mean, the fatal flaws inherent in men and women. With women, it's decision that women can't get out of their own way. They know that what is best for them, according to what they say they want, is to make one kind of decision, but they always seem to make the opposite of that. They can't get out of their own way. And then when it comes to men, their fatal flaw is just the pursuit of vagina. It's a fatal flaw. It leads to the ruinization of us all. But if we can just get somebody on here to contribute to that conversation to help us dissect the pathology involved in why these decisions get made. Because yes, to answer your question, I 1000% believe she believed that he wasn't about that. Why else would you, and you marry him, of course, you realize he's not, because he's not and he never was, and you should have known this. And now all of a sudden you're the victim, and it's like, oh my God, he did me so dirty. So I don't know.
I don't know either. But hey, let us know down in the comment section, guys. Do you feel as though Offset was out of bounds by potentially getting the bag out of Cardi B in their divorce situation? Or do you guys feel as though he should have took a different approach and just let that be? Let us know down in the comment section, guys. Love to hear.
Hey, shouts out to Offset, man. Do what you got to do, bro. I'm not, again, I'm not blaming them. I'm just saying, there were gains to be had in either route, I guess. So I guess I'm just highlighting the other game.
Financial gain.
Yeah, yeah. I probably would too. If, like you said, if she's dragging me publicly the way that she is, I'll probably do the same.
Man, I done seen some nasty videos from that woman.
Well, she's a rather nasty individual.
I would say that. So give me the cash. Give me the cash.
101 million net worth.
What a world.
Yeah. And now we have Dez Bryant sounding off on his disapproval of the NFL's Pride Month celebration.
Mm-hmm.
So for anyone who is unaware, June is Pride Month.
Oh shit! Damn.
Which you know is interesting for me because June is also the month of my birth. And so
Yeah.
I share the birth of the month of my birth with Pride Month.
Yeah, I'm sorry, bro.
It's all good, man. But the NFL, much like many other corporations, are acknowledging that they are allies in the Pride community by, marketing, campaigning on behalf of Pride Month all month long. And so the NFL is doing its thing. It's spearheaded an initiative to, beef up and market up Pride Month. And a former NFL wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys, Dez Bryant, he's not the biggest fan of this. He has sounded off on social media over his disapproval of how the NFL is marketing Pride Month. And so that's what we're going to get into here. This says Dez Bryant calls out NFL for Pride Month message. Dez Bryant was a beloved wide receiver during his time with the Dallas Cowboys. Overall, he had some huge plays and some controversial ones at that as well. Since his playing days, Bryant has been vocal about a variety of topics on social media. In today's social media age, being vocal about certain topics can certainly lead to criticism and virality. However, Bryant has never really cared about any of that. Instead, he says what he wants when he wants, even if what he has to say offends people. He is going to say it anyway. That was the case on Monday as the NFL released a Pride Month video. The video itself used slogans like football is gay and football is lesbian.
Whoa.
These were statements used to show that anyone can enjoy or play football.
Wow.
Think the NHL's hockey is for everyone campaign. Subsequently, there was a lot of backlash towards the NFL online, and Dez Bryant was one of the people that spoke out. So here you can see Dez Bryant's tweets. Wait, is this a video? Let me hit play on this. I think this might be a video.
Wow. Football is trans? Wow.
All right, so that was the NFL promo. So that was and the NFL actually tweeted that. So you can see there that's the NFL's that was the NFL's tweet or X post, whatever you want to call it. So here's Dez Bryant. Here's Dez Bryant's response. Football is gay, football is queer, football is transgender. These are wild statements to make. Excuse my silliness. I'm going to proudly tell my boys football is none of these things. I have nothing against gays, but this is far from right. It's gay players in the NFL, but forcing it in people's faces, especially children, can send the wrong message. Football is a real community, like the gay community. Imagine telling gays they have to advocate for straight people. They probably would have a problem. So that is Dez Bryant's response to that. The article goes on to say Bryant went on to claim that there are indeed gay players in the NFL. However, this messaging is the wrong way to go about things. He also compared the LGBTQ plus community to the football community. While his analogy is a false equivalence, you're probably going to have a hard time convincing the former wide receiver that he's wrong. Pride Month messaging has certainly seen a bit of a decline since the Trump administration took over. Brands have gotten a bit more timid about posting this kind of stuff. Consequently, it is surprising the NFL posted a video at all. Only time will tell if they continue their Pride Month campaigns. So we see Dez Bryant is not a fan of all of this hugabaloo. What did you make of Dez Bryant's response to the NFL's Pride Month campaign?
Yeah, man, I feel like it was on point. I don't understand. I mean, I do understand why the NFL or any other corporation would hop on this bandwagon during this month. But Yeah, I feel like it's really forced. I just really feel like it's forced. It's not necessary. I agree with him. The fact that it's like, well, yeah, football is not transgender, actually. Now, I know what you mean. Football can be watched and enjoyed by transgenders and by gays and by lesbians. Yeah, for sure. Well, say that. But to say football is gay, no, that's gay to say that. That that's gay. And yeah, man. So to each their own, man. Whoever you decide to sleep with, that's on you. Cause trust, I agree with Dez Bryant here as well. There's gay guys in the league. All right, there's gay guys in every sport, every profession. All right. But what people decide to do in their bedrooms, honestly, is just stay in the bedroom. So my problem with this is having bedroom conversations out loud. So if like how Dez said, like, now he was getting in the sense of, going to gay people and telling them to advocate for straight, which is very true as well. But it's also just having a sex conversation out loud. Because at the baseline of all of this stuff, of whoever you decide to sleep with, is a sexual conversation. So to have that in public forums like the NFL, on children's content, or anything else like that, all right, is, to me, is like, okay, well, why not have more adult content for straight people out there? Or let's have straight people out there always having, whatever stuff out there. And to me, I feel as though it's inappropriate. So there's stuff out there right now. Granted, there is over sexualization going on in all forms of media, for sure. All right. There are inappropriate jokes in children cartoons and movies and stuff like that are straight, but those are called out by straight people too. Those are called out by concerned people, that children should not be exposed to sexual type of content. So to sit around here and take a product like the NFL, which is enjoyed by all kinds of people, okay, let it be enjoyed by all kinds of people. And I think that goes without saying. But for them to come around here and specifically for this month to say these things when all kinds of people are watching, including children, I feel as though it's inappropriate. But when you're dealing with the socialization of America, there seems to be a concerted effort to make sure that future generations turn out like Dwayne Wade's son, or turn out like Magic Johnson's son, all right, or Marlon Wayans, or any one of those other people out here's kids, that made that choice. All right. So yeah, the NFL is going to be doing their thing. Trust, man. I know, because they was already pushing one of those guys, a few of those guys actually, that decided to come out or whatever. And I would not be surprised if there's a young man who's in the either high school or collegiate ranks that that likes to calls himself non-binary, and the NFL would love to promote that. So because the NBA doesn't have a problem. Now the NBA doesn't really get out in front and do it, but there's players that love to paint their nails and stuff like that and get funky. Caleb Williams, for example, I guess, for the NFL. So we'll see what happens with this level of campaign and marketing going on. Me personally, I feel as though it's inappropriate because it's based around sex. It's based upon what people do in the bedroom, and that doesn't serve a place in sports. But what are your thoughts, man, on Dez Bryant running around here, clapping back, I guess, at the NFL for its ad for Pride Month? What are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, people who like this, who like what the NFL is doing and what other corporations are doing, they will clap back at what you just said by saying it's a false equivalency, because to suggest that it's merely about communicating sexuality, and we don't even want to see straight sex being oversold to people. they'll tell you that that's a false equivalency because heterosexuality hasn't been marginalized the way.
Oh, come on.
That's what I'm not agree. I don't agree with it. I don't agree with it, but I believe that that's what the response would be, is that it's a marginalized group, and so because it's a marginalized group, they have to be campaigned on behalf of, because you need to foster inclusivity, or you need to foster inclusiveness because it's a marginalized group. Therefore, to equate it to
I got something to
anything,
say to that.
I would imagine that that's the retort, and therefore,
No, for sure. I know.
equating it to talking about anything traditional or hetero is a false equivalency because anything traditional or hetero hasn't been marginalized the way, you know, the other communities have been marginalized. I'm more in line with what Dan said here. I don't really agree with it. I don't. And the reason why I don't agree with it is because I believe the principles of marketing are such that the messages are going to appeal to those who are most vulnerable psychologically, or to those to whom haven't lived or experienced life long enough to develop their own sense of the way that they look the world. Mm-hmm. So I feel like an impressionable mind, above all else, is most susceptible to marketing messages. And the most impressionable minds amongst us are the minds of children. Children's minds are the minds that are the most susceptible to marketing messages because children's minds are the most impressionable. The human brain does not develop fully until you're around 25 or 26 years old. Prior to that point, your brain is in the midst of a very delicate stage of human development. And during that time, it is highly susceptible to all forms of messaging and social programming. Therefore, messages like this are more palpable in terms of influencing the way that a young mind thinks. And I think that's the thing that has people the most uncomfortable, is leave young and impressionable minds out of it, because they should be given the opportunity to formulate their own sense of the world of their own accord, and maybe not necessarily of their own accord, but the responsibility of that should be left solely in the hands of parents and caregivers. I feel like that's largely what people who have an issue with this kind of stuff have to say, reasonable people at least, which is leave that stuff at home for parents and caregivers. And I don't really think that that's an unreasonable take to have. People got in a real uproar down here in Florida with the whole "don't say gay" thing. They felt as though it was a form of hate speech. It was, further marginalizing the LGBTQ community. It was homophobic and all of that other stuff. And reasonable people who were in favor of that initiative just wanted that stuff to be kept away from kids. Like, that was the main issue with that, was keep it away from kids. And I can attest, being down here in Dade County, I have two relatives who literally work in the school system, the public school system. They talk to me about how they have had to in order to comply with Dade County public school curriculum standards, they had to adjust the curriculum in their schools in order to adhere to certain adjustments in the curriculum, i.e., classes and special forms of education and counseling programs that are available to grade school students that sort of foster an environment which suggests that it's a normal part of one's development to do certain things like question their gender. In my opinion, those types of things don't need to be involved in school curriculums. To make it a part of a school curriculum, to suggest that it is normal for a human to question their gender, is highly suggestive. And I think that kind of tenor is reinforced when you have these corporations putting on campaigns like this, because it's only going to hit the most vulnerable amongst us, which is kids with impressionable minds. And I mean, that video that we played at the top of this segment literally talked about how, there was something to the effect of kids or young people with accepting role model have a such and such less % chance to unalive themselves. And it's like, okay, statistically that might be accurate, but what you're doing at that point is contextualizing this campaign around young people's need to be able to glean this kind of message. So to me, that's a double-edged sword. Because you're creating this campaign in order to foster inclusiveness, but you're contextualizing it within the parameters of kids who need to view this message. Or rather, caregivers who need to view it so that they can know how to better handle their kids. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I understand that this is going to continue to happen because if there's one thing that I've learned in post George Floyd America, post 2020, is it doesn't matter how much pushback there is to this kind of stuff. Corporations, in addition to being in the black and in addition to making revenue, care about one thing more than anything else, and that is depicting themselves as being on the right side of history. And I'm telling you, bro, whether you and I like it or not, this kind of stuff is what they feel they need to do in order to make sure that they are on the right side of history. They don't want to be 50, 100 years down the line and be suffering the ramifications of the general population believing that they were on the wrong side of history with stuff. And so in order to curtail that risk, they're going to continue these kinds of campaigns because whether you disagree with it, it is perceived by the mainstream media to be on the right side of history to take this position, even if that means creating susceptible messaging, or even if that means creating suspect messaging aimed towards children, which is what fair-minded, reasonable people have the biggest issue with.
Yeah, man. I agree, dude. And like you were saying, as far as like the marginalized thing, man, I would just say that right now in history, especially since I came up, gay people, they're doing whatever. They can go down the street, they can come out and say something, and hey, I'm gay. But pretty sure everybody knew they was gay. Nobody cares. Now, people are going to care, but people don't care.
Well,
man.
Yeah, to make your because I hear what you're saying, and I would say because I agree with you, and I think what happens is, you know what? I'll say it when I'll let you go, and then I'll say it. But I know what you're saying, and I know where that comes from. So I'm gonna comment on that after you finish.
Well, that's what I'm saying. At least me over here, man, I don't care. Went to school with them, worked with them. Okay, the people in my family. Like, who cares? You know what I'm saying? And that's what y'all decide to do. That's what y'all decide to do. My thing is that, again, like I said in the first part, is that it's centered around sex. It's a sex conversation. So when you tell a third grader about their sexual orientation, what do you do with that afterwards? Hey, man, go learn your multiplication, bro. Bring that into the schoolhouse. That's my thing. Hey, man, who's going to throw for the most yards this season? Who gives a shark of who somebody's sleeping with? It's not relevant. But, of course, they like to gaslight people with those statistics. They love to use those. And whenever you see a form of somebody out there complaining or why they need to inject themselves with hormones and something like that, they flip it on you and say, well, do you want me to unalive myself? How do we get there? But to me, that's nothing but propaganda. They've been sold a whole bunch of propaganda. All right. But I would say this, okay, that these ads, these monthly, first of all, the fact that we've even gotten this far, that there's so many people out here that are just living like that, okay, and doing their thing. It used to be alternative. It's starting to become the mainstream. Okay. And they're not being how are you going to be marginalized if y'all going to be the majority at some point? You know what I'm saying? it is a lot of people living their life. You know what I'm saying? And if they're not open about it, they're sure living it on the low. So there's a lot of people in that boat. All right. But how do we get there? Through conditioning, I would say. You know, I would say that there's always a population of it going on, but it is being trendy. It's being trendy. It's being popularized. It's being promoted. All right. Through the likes of even the NFL. All right. I won't be surprised if UFC is doing it or anything else that's supposed to be predominantly for the guys. All right. Now there's going to be all this other stuff going on with it. All right.
Well, you know, they say they always have that statistic that 50% of NFL viewers are women.
Well,
I don't know. That sounds like a statistic that gets pulled out of people's buttholes.
They be making up stats. They be making stuff up, man. So I say this, man, with the progression of how all of these corporations are doing it, the movies, the TV shows, the video games, even. I mean, hell, it's all over the place. All right. But that goes in line. I'm about to go a little galaxy, bro. You can stay here, bro. I'm about to keep going. All right. All right. But that ties into the conversation that we had last week about AI and the other conversations that we had. All right. Where, or other situations where we're talking about, the food or anything else. There's so much stuff out here that is giving people cancer. There's so much bad food out here. There's all of this other stuff that's going on where, hey, man, what are we going to do with all of these people? There's a human problem, according to these corporations. There's too many of us. And one of the things that we're going to make sure that one thing that can help curb world population is if people just start bumping each other. You know, no more insertions, just bumping and rubbing and stuff. All right. So that'll curb a good amount of it. All right. So this goes in line with me this falls in line with people, like Planned Parenthood or something like that. Those types of things, those people that was out there fighting for women's rights, air quote. All right. It's in that same boat of, hey, we don't want more people here. For better or for worse, anybody can sit here and argue of, hey, man, the world is overpopulated. Well, there are too many people out here polluting the world. That's another argument. But my thing is that they're trying to curb things. I guess that's better than, going door by door and rounding people up. But this stuff here is meant to make a young man to castrate himself later, to guarantee he doesn't have nothing later. And that's what this stuff is about to me. So this is deeper because these corporations don't care about people. So for them to sit around here and parade this stuff, to me, this has something else in mind. All right. So besides them, placating the people. Mm-hmm. So yeah, man, I think that this has its own narrative behind it. And that's why they target children. Because they target adults and all that stuff. They're targeting kids with all of this stuff.
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah. And so they're just, to me, this is to ensure that future generations, it curbs numbers because you don't want as many useless eaters later. But yeah, man, what you was gonna say, bro? I ain't mean.
Well, to address that real quick, even like what you're saying, even if that isn't intentional, it's at the very least an unintended consequence. So if the net result is the same, what difference does it make what the intent was? Mm-hmm. Like it's an unintended consequence at the very least. Like obviously, if you are cultivating a social environment in which future generations of humans are living with the idea that, I don't want to get too controversial, but that, sex and sexuality, it truly is fluid. An unintended consequence at the end of the day is going to be less childbirths, which will curb populations. So even if it's not intentional, even if it's not people in a shadowy room saying, how we need to get these people's population numbers down, let's promote Pride Month. Even if that's not what's actually happening, I do think there's some validity to that notion because at the very least, it's an unintended consequence. So it is not entirely all that far fetched as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
But like to address the other point that you made about like what all of the hoopla and the hugabaloo over it, the aggressiveness of the messaging, or at least individuals such as ourselves, we sort of intake this kind of stuff as it's a form of aggressive messaging. Like people get a little bit too caught up in, and you know, there's a rainbows and unicorns notion. Like these corporations, part of the effort to spearhead these types of initiatives is grounded in the idea that we want to be a part of creating a better world where everyone feels loved and accepted. That is never going to happen. It doesn't exist.
All right.
Like people conflate decency with acceptance. Like we're never going to be there. People are getting too hung up on ultimate acceptance. And what ends up happening is a person's opinion about something gets contorted to be a form of like hatred or intolerance or hate speech. Mm-hmm. So like I live in a world where somebody can have, I live in a world where people can be, where an individual can treat somebody and accord them with respect and human decency, right? But still have an opinion about their chosen lifestyle. Like that happens all the time. Mm-hmm. Like there's people who feel some type of way about black people, for example.
Oh, yeah.
But in public, I'm treated with respect and decency by those same people. Now, am I going to get bent out of shape because they have certain preconceived biases towards black people? I can choose to do that if I want, but as far as I'm concerned, that would be wasted energy because we all have preconceived biases, including myself. Mm-hmm. I live with biases all the time. Mm-hmm. I have preconceived biases about women. I have preconceived biases about Hispanic people. I have preconceived biases about black people. I have preconceived biases about men. Whatever kind of group you can think of, I have preconceived biases about those groups. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, I can still live in the world and coexist with these individuals and accord them human decency and respect. And I feel like that's what people should be aspiring to. This notion of ultimate acceptance is never going to happen. You're always going to have people who have opinions about gay people or trans people or LGBTQ people. But can you exist with these people, coexist with them, treat them and accord them with respect and human decency? That's the conversation that we should be having. But there's a large segment of people, and I think that's the kind of galvanization that ends up heading up initiatives like this, which believe that unless I believe in my heart and soul that I love everybody, we need to continue to batten down the hatches and beat the idea of acceptance into people's brains until we've beaten it into oblivion. And anything less than that is unacceptable. So, you know, it's unfortunate because, like I said before, impressionable minds get caught in the crosshairs, which to me is just younger generations. I don't think that in my opinion, I don't think that we should be fostering an environment in our society in which these types of ideologies become something that people glean as a normal part of their life's journey. Mm-hmm. And at the very least, those kinds of conversations should be left up to parents and caregivers. But we're not going to live in that world so long as capitalism reigns and these corporations get the sense that promoting these kinds of agendas puts them on the right side of history, which also puts them on the right side of making the most amount of money because those corporate dollars need to keep coming in. And that's what this is all about. I hope people in these communities don't think the NFL actually cares about them, because you're sadly mistaken if you do. The NFL just wants to make sure that it continues to be in the black. And the way that it continues to be in the black is by appealing to as many people as possible, which includes a lot of people who come from marginalized communities such as this. But it is purely a ploy to be able to maximize on their revenue gains into perpetuity. And it doesn't have anything much to do with them actually caring about you. And that goes for LGBTQ people, gay people, trans people, black people, women, minorities. I don't give a damn what group or community you come from. where you feel like the world has dealt you a bad hand and you feel slighted in society, these people don't care about you. They're just going to try to appeal to you so that you can spend your money with them.
That's it.
And if that's enough for you to continue to wake up every day and continue to support it, then by God, go ahead and support it. But trust me, these initiatives do not mean that they care about you.
Yeah, man. Last thing I'll say, man, is, also these efforts have what has happened with people that are in the community. An overwhelming majority of them, I would argue, use their energy and their life force to fight for acceptance and fight for people to just look at them as equal, which I already said earlier that a lot of people already don't give a damn, which honestly should be good enough. Because if I see a dude on the elevator and I assume he's heterosexual, I don't give a damn what he's doing. If there's somebody on the elevator and they appear to be, homosexual, I don't give a damn what he does.
You really don't care.
I'm treating you equally.
Exactly. People don't care.
There's a lot of us that do that.
Right. Yeah.
Even though I don't agree with what you're doing, I don't give a damn about it.
But that's the point, though. It's not enough that you pay it no mind and don't care and that you're respectful. You need to agree with it. Yes. Yeah. That's the crux.
That's a little too equal for me.
I feel that. That's the crux. That's the crux of it. That's the crux of it is if you don't intrinsically agree with it ideologically, we need to do it's not enough. Respect and decency is not enough. You need to be ideologically aligned with it.
And my thing is that what ends up happening, and that's what I was saying, like the overwhelming majority of them end up spending their entire life force fighting for that, instead of fighting for things that really matter. Even if they talk about stuff that air quote really matters, it always boils back down to who they're having sex with. It always comes back to those kinds of rights. And so at that point, I go, hey, you're a little too fixated on rectums or cooter cats and who's doing what with them. Because there's bigger things going on out here that we need to be paying attention to other than sex. And that's my problem with this, is because the fight is for sex, which in the grand scheme of things is just for reproduction. And so after the reproduction, we have to live life and do stuff, because there are, in my opinion, people out here that are shadowy. There are principalities and weird stuff going on out here that we need to be dedicating our energy to. But these types of things have people using all of that to fight for somebody's rectum. And that to me is my problem with it. So if you want to sit there and advocate for rights because that's how your life is and that's how you feel, cool, man. But get out here on these other fronts and deal with these other things as well. But I see most of the stuff is about what they can do with each other's rectums, and to me, that's where they lose me at. So,
well, they can do whatever they want with each other's rectums. They just want you to be happy about it. Like they want you to they want you to be like, that's the thing. Like they already have that ability. Like no one is taking that away from them. No one, like you said, bro, no one gives a damn who you're sleeping with. We don't care. Yes, are there extremists in the world? Absolutely. There are extremists on either side of any argument at any given moment in time. The vast majority of people are somewhere in the middle. Reasonable people who can reasonably live and coexist and respectfully be amongst others in the world and not bat an eye about it. Does that mean that they are going to have the perfect opinion of your lifestyle that you want them to have? No, but that should not be what you are seeking.
Right.
It shouldn't. I don't live my life every day hoping everyone loves black people. That's a waste of time.
It really is.
It's a waste. That is a waste. That is a waste of time. As long as no one is showing up at my door, knocking on my door and rounding me up to put me in the gulag, I can give a damn about what's going on. But when it comes to this effort specifically, what it feels like is it's not enough that we can live in a world and coexist with everybody. You need to feel the way we feel about how we've chosen to do things.
Yeah.
And that is such wasted energy. Good luck with that.
That's what I'm saying.
Good luck with that. It's just not gonna happen, man. It's not gonna happen. And don't be so weak-minded as to believe that just because the NFL does a silly little ad like this, that they care about your cause. They don't. They just want you to spend the money with them.
Exactly.
They look down the road and they say, if we lose gay people, we're gonna lose a healthy revenue share. So let's make sure we're doing what we need to do to keep those people spending their money, to keep trans people spending the money, to keep lesbians spending the money. They don't care about they don't care about your chosen lifestyle. They don't. It's ridiculous, man. And that part is annoying. And that's I feel like that, in conjunction with the targeted messaging towards younger generations, is what gets people riled up and voicing their frustrations with this stuff, which then in turn gets misconstrued as hate or intolerance or bigotry. So it's a wild dynamic that we got going on with this stuff. But I'm rocking with Dez on this. I don't like it either because of the underhanded nature of it. But people are just going to want to have their cake and eat it too when it comes to these kinds of conversations. It's like you said, man, no one's taking the right for any of these people to do whatever they want. I mean, no one cares, but it's not enough that it be a situation where no one cares. They want you to care, but care in the way they want you to care.
Yeah, so. which is a no. So, hey, man, but what do y'all think down in the comment section, y'all? Do y'all agree with Dez Bryant? That this was this had no place in the NFL ad. Them advocating for Pride Month, or do you feel as though Dez Bryant need to loosen up a little bit and go to a parade himself so he can see what really goes on there? Maybe he's a little ignorant. So let us know down in the comment section, guys. Would love to hear your response on that.
Shouts out to Dez, man. They want Dez to go to a slut walk.
No, they want him. They want him to go to a splack pack and parade. Yeah, man, with those guys out there wearing them scantily clad.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they want him to be out there. Hey, Dez, keep throwing up the X, bro. Keep throwing up the X.
Oh my God.
Hysterical.
And as we prefaced earlier, we are going to get into Stefon Diggs. We talked about Cardi B earlier and her messiness, and now we have Stefon Diggs, Cardi B's newest love
interest.
Yeah, that's a very good way to put it. Yeah. So Stefon Diggs was, of course, down here in the capital of debauchery. As a side note, I think Miami has officially become the capital of debauchery and salaciousness in America. I don't know where it was previously. I don't know if it was LA, Vegas, New York. I'm not exactly sure. But everybody's down here now, and everybody's just engaging in all of the debauchery in the world.
I think that's fair. That's fair. It's fair to say.
Yeah, it really is. And Stefon Diggs was down here with Cardi B. They were on a yacht, of course, because that's what these people need to do is get on a boat in Miami. And they were engaging in all sorts of salacious behavior. And Stefon Diggs is catching a bit of collateral damage behind it. One of the things that has people questioning, Stefon Diggs in this particular situation is there was a video of him on this yacht with Cardi B that went viral, with him around a bunch of women with what appears to be some sort of a pink substance that people are wondering what's going on here. And Mike Vrabel, the head coach of the New England Patriots, Stefon Diggs' current team, who he signed a new deal for in the offseason, was asked questions from the media about it. And he basically just, he answered it with a non-answer by saying he's aware of it and blah, 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 blah. And so, it's just, I don't know. It's not the best look for Diggs, in my opinion. But this says Patriots head coach responds to Cardi B boat video with Stefon Diggs, alleged pink cocaine. Stefon Diggs appeared in a viral video pulling out a pink bag during a Miami yacht party with Cardi B, prompting a response from Patriots coach Mike Vrabel. Stefon Diggs appeared in a viral yacht party video where he pulled out a small bag of pink powder during a Miami boat outing with Cardi B, prompting questions about the substance and a response from his head coach. Cardi B is not featured in the clip, which quickly spread across social media. Stefon Diggs is surrounded by women calling him daddy while dancing and interacting with guests. At one point, Stefon Diggs opens a metal container and reveals a plastic bag filled with a pink substance. Online speculation erupted, with many users suggesting the powder resembled Tusi, also known as pink cocaine, a synthetic party drug often made from ketamine, MDMA, and meth.
Damn.
When asked about the video and the substance during a media session, head coach Mike Vrabel acknowledged the situation but kept his remarks measured. So we'll just go ahead and play the video. It begins with Stefon Diggs on the boat, and then it goes into Mike Vrabel addressing it with the media.
That we're aware of, and obviously we want to make great decisions on and off the field. We're hoping that with our time here on the field today, and that when we don't have a script and we're on the call periods, that we're making great decisions. So the message will be the same for all our players, that we're trying to make great decisions, and any conversations that I've had with Stefon will remain between him.
All right, I'm likely gonna have to edit the Diggs part out.
Oh yeah.
When I go into post production on this, because that's definitely gonna get flagged. Maybe not, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, man. Repurpose, man. Fair use, guys. Fair use.
Let's see. Neither Diggs nor Cardi B has addressed the footage publicly. The couple, who confirmed their relationship in May 2025, appeared together on the boat and have not commented on the nature of the substance. The pink baggy moment has fueled speculation, but no official investigation or disciplinary action has been announced. So yeah, man. There you go. There's Diggs doing his thing. It's worth noting the next day, or maybe a couple of days after that, he showed up to Patriots OTAs. And typically players of Diggs' stature do not participate in all-season OTAs.
Mm-hmm.
So the speculation is, to sort of, quiet some of the noise around this. He tried to stir up some goodwill by showing up to Patriots OTAs, even though he is an established player in the league. Typically, established players in the league don't show up to all-season OTAs.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, man. So what do you think about this mini controversy with Diggs and the pink substance on the boat, and then Vrabel basically having to answer questions from the media about it?
Oh man, did you see that show? Was it called Ballers with The Rock? Did you see that show, man?
Yeah.
This is straight out of Ballers, bro. That whole scene, man. Typical wide receiver behavior. Now the thing about this is, I guess, is not the Patriot way. I can't recall any New England Patriot getting into situations quite like this. So yeah, this is very interesting. A hell of a first impression for Stefon to make. But there's a video out there, man, floating around. It's been floating around for a few years now, where when Stefon Diggs played for the Minnesota Vikings, and they went around in the locker room and they was like, "Hey, man, which teammate would you not let date your sister?" I mean, everybody says Stefon. And so from that point, I was like, "Oh, I guess he's one of those guys." And so yeah, Stefon Diggs is one of those guys. And so, over the last couple of years, there'd be sprinkles of this and this and that. He'll pop in the news rumor mill with him dealing with some whatever type chick. And then lately it was the whole Cardi B stuff. And so it was like, yeah, that sounds like Stefon Diggs to me. Okay, so it was right up his alley. But for this situation here, for him to be on a boat, my thing was, did you not see the phone recording you? Now he might have been so high off whatever himself that he was just so lost in the moment with those basic women. I mean, they so basic, bro. And you think for a yacht party, you think in Miami, you think there'll be a little bit more eye candy-ish. But no, they look like the type of women that do meth. So so to me, that whole situation there, typical quintessential wide receiver diva behavior in the offseason. None other than Stefon Diggs. If there was a thing where somebody said, "Hey, somebody got caught on the boat in the offseason, they're a wide receiver, okay, with a pink substance, and he's got these women around him calling him daddy," who do you think it is? I would have said Stefon Diggs. That would have been my very first guess. So for him to just be doing all of that and fit the stereotype of himself, to me was absolutely hilarious. But as far as a businessman, as far as if I was Mike Vrabel, I would handle this the same way. Hey, man, we hope we make the right decisions, blah, 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 blah. If I'm the Patriots, hey, man, we know what we got when we signed you. We needed a air quote #1 receiver. This comes with the territory of having such a person like Stefon. So I'm pretty sure they're aware of this. It's not the Patriot way. But at the same time, New England was clearly desperate for them. Because when I heard he was going there in the first place, I was like, that's not a cultural fit. And sure enough, look what he does. So, but hey, this is a business situation. These are grown behind men. So, hey, man, slap on the wrist. Don't do that again. And I think all of this stuff is sweep under the rug. It'd just be more of an internet meme than him actually getting penalized for it. But what are your thoughts, bro, on Stefon Diggs getting caught on a boat with some ketamine or whatever the hell they said and meth? Golly, what are your thoughts, bro? Potentially, what are your thoughts?
I think Stefon Diggs is undisciplined.
Yeah,
sure. What was that we were talking about Anthony Edwards earlier on this stream. Some people just aren't. Some people just don't have the discretion. Discipline is something that comes easier to some people and harder to others. I remember there was a video we did a while back. I forget which it was, but I basically said, watching the way some of these people move, I'm starting to believe that discipline is a skill. It's not an inherent trait. It's a skill that you have to develop over time. And if you don't develop it at the right time, you can become an adult with atrophy, where you just never develop the skill of discipline. And now, if you have money and you have a certain level of freedom and latitude, your lack of discipline is going to be magnified. And if you never develop that skill, it can cost you if you do something that is a bit too risque because of your lack of discipline. And Zion to me is a person, I think at this point, all of the smoke that's around Zion, I think it's enough for us to conclude safely that he's just an undisciplined human. And he isn't the only one. I think Diggs might be another guy who's just an undisciplined human. I'm not somebody who is going to sit up here and say, don't be on a boat with a bunch of women, having fun and taking meth. Because if if that's how you want to do things, if that's how you want to do things, man, Godspeed. It ain't my speed, but if that's how you want to live life in the fast lane like that, go ahead, man. I'm not trying to tell nobody how they should or should not be living their life. However, I will say if you're going to do that, you need to do it with discretion. You need to do it in a manner that is disciplined enough so as to ensure that the tape of it isn't going to go viral on the internet. So my whole thing is, how can you not foresee the potential ramifications of allowing whoever was recording that to continue to record it and then post it? Like, you have to have enough discipline to say, hey, this is not for public consumption. Don't record it. Don't post it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have I'm on a $63 million contract. Like, as far like, if it's up to me, I don't know who arranged it. I don't know who arranged the boat. I don't know whose name is on the bill. I don't know who coordinated it. You know, for all I know, he can just be somebody who's just there as a passenger. You know, he might not be the one who him or his people rather may not have been the one who coordinated the logistics. But I don't care if I didn't coordinate the logistics. Of everybody who's on this thing, I have the most to lose. So if I'm going to be on here, I'm going to be draking the hell out of this situation.
Exactly.
Everybody is either giving their phone up or signing an NDA. Hey, look, man, you can say what you want about the diddler. There was a video that went viral after the feds were seizing Diddy's compounds. There was a video that was floating around the internet of a previous boat party that Diddy was hosting, and before everybody got on the boat, Diddy walked around with a knapsack, and everybody who was getting on the boat had to put their phones in the bag.
So sinister.
But my thing is, Diddy, as shiesty as he is,
yeah, man,
was covering his tracks.
100%. Yeah.
You know, listen, you got to Derek Jeter this thing. You're not coming in this house unless you surrender your phone. And you're going to sign this piece of paper that says you cannot talk about this publicly. Drake is notorious for the NDAs. I don't even like Drake. But you want to know why Drake isn't in even more messy situations than he has been thus far? Because he's been disciplined enough to cover his tracks. So I kind of feel like when you're somebody who's in Diggs' position, bro, you got to be smart enough and disciplined enough to cover your tracks. Like, that video to me, when I watched that, the thoughts that came to my mind weren't about what he was doing, but more so about how sloppy it is that this is viral.
That's what I'm saying. Like, how do you not see somebody standing like 3 feet away from you holding their phone?
He doesn't care. He did see it. He just doesn't give a damn. And that's how undisciplined people are. They think that at any given moment, a viral moment is a good. He wants to be like DDG. DDG, like, oh, you got to be popping. Whoever's the most popping, that's who gonna have the most pull with the women and all of that. You got to be. That's his mentality. That's a guy like Stefon Diggs. His mentality is, this might cost. Actually, he isn't even thinking about how it costs him. He's only thinking about how it benefits him. So in that moment, he wasn't even considering how this might get back to the Patriots or how it might make him look. He was just thinking about the fact that he's going to be popping on TikTok. And that is a lack of discipline that I just can't abide by personally. It's like, look, bro, have your fun, bro, but you got to be smart enough to handle these situations with some discretion. You're with a girl who doesn't even know the definition of the word discretion.
Lord have mercy.
So it's your responsibility to handle your personal situations with discretion. But you got two undisciplined humans, and they're both together. Because he's undisciplined, she's undisciplined. And when you got two undisciplined people together, ain't nobody going to have the discipline to say, hey, maybe we should make sure that nobody's recording this stuff.
Yeah, well, but when you on that stuff, bro, that's what I'm saying. That's what really, and that throws off your judgment too.
I would argue anybody who is going to get on that stuff doesn't have discipline.
Oh yeah. And it throws off everything else too. You know what I'm saying? So if you didn't have discipline already, that's really gonna go out of the window. You know what I'm saying? And now I don't know if he was actually himself doing it, but I mean he had it readily available in a tin can in a Ziploc bag. All right, so
he looked like he was the provider. Yeah,
I'm assuming. Okay, if he wasn't on that, he's on something else. I don't think that's just the tweeds and liquor. All right, he looked a little blazed himself. All right, so yeah, once you on that, and a la OBJ, getting caught with some powdery substance himself, on a binge kind of night. You know what I'm saying? Once you in that moment like that, and you so fired up, you're not even noticing the camera, or it's not even a situation where let me cover my bases. I got 60-something million on the line, or nothing like that. None of those things, none of those thoughts cross people's minds. And some people lose their sense of judgment and stuff like that with just alcohol. So you can only imagine how some people on these other mind-altering substances, and they've been doing it for so long, that there's this level of being oblivious to their surroundings. And I'm with you, man. Of course, I don't, I would have been in that NDA situation. If I'm in that situation myself, and I know I like to get down on a boat like that, you know what I'm saying? I'm walking around with ketamine and methamphetamines in my pocket. Okay. What is going on, bro? You know what I'm saying? If I'm walking around like that, yeah, man, that's not good enough. That's not good on my public image, especially as an athlete. I'm gonna be a little particular about that. And I'm gonna be like, hey man, these other parties I go to where I get wild like this, there's NDAs involved. You got these basic girls on a boat. They're gonna bring their phone, they're gonna post something. They're not even professional with it. Now, the real professionals, the ones that have been on these yacht parties before, the ones that know how to get down. You probably even got to get them girls an NDA. They just know what it is so they can be back on the boat next time. You know what I'm saying? But he dealing with these basics. And like you said, because it was on this boat with, I guess, any guy that had the cash or some person that they know, then it was just probably one of those kind of parties. But even then, man, yeah, I wouldn't even position myself if I were Stefon Diggs in those types of scenarios. I'm pretty sure this wasn't his first rodeo. Okay, I'm pretty sure he's gotten down like this in the off season before. I wouldn't be surprised if it was last year, based upon the season he had last year. But yeah, man, I think that that's how a lot of these athletes get down. He was just being messy, as you said. Mm-hmm. You gotta do better. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is always stage one of these guys getting out of the league.
Yeah,
he was already on the decline, some would argue. Okay, but this types of stuff here. Only thing he needs is one dusty ass season, and he's going to be out of the league. And going to the Patriots, of all places, the way they've been run lately, that is a good recipe to get Juju Smith-Schuster the hell out of here. So best of luck to you, Stefon. But very sloppy activity out there. And it's sad to say that I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I don't think what separates pro athletes who can have a long career from those who don't and the ones who flame out. I don't think the separating factor is living in the fast lane, because I think most of them live in the fast lane. Mm-hmm. I think the ones who are boring and settled down and content with that, I think those are the ones in the minority. Mm-hmm. I think the majority of them live in the fast lane and live it up and do things just like this on a very regular basis. Mm-hmm. But what separates the ones who have a lasting career from the ones who flame out is the fact that the ones who have a lasting career, they do it with discretion. Like, they're disciplined in how they conduct themselves in this way. They're not sloppy with it. So that's the main difference. This is just sloppy. Like, it doesn't really offend me that he was doing any of what he was alleged to have been doing. It offends me that I'm seeing it, because I'm just like, I'm just like, bro, be disciplined, bro. Like, I don't want to see anybody out here getting cut and then being out of the league because they're just sloppy with their business, with their personal business. I don't like that. So my whole thing to him is not stop doing it. You know, I'm not trying to be holier than thou. Hey, Stefon, you shouldn't be on that yacht with that substance and those women. I'm not on that timeline. I'm on the timeline of people don't need to be knowing about it.
That's fair.
But this whole this celebrity hero worship culture, which has been exponentially exacerbated by social media, has these people in a situation where they don't perceive consequences for internet popularity.
Yeah.
They're just looking for any and every opportunity to be trending in some kind of way. And then when the aftermath comes, they're like, oh, you know, I'm the victim. What happened? Oh, they're disrespecting me. And it's like, bro, you just should have been more disciplined with this stuff. Like, that's it. So, you know, and that's the same message that goes to guys like John Morant and Anthony Edwards and Zion Williamson. You know, like, be more disciplined with your business, bro. Like, you guys are handling these situations with the utmost sloppiness, and it's making you look bad, and you're jeopardizing your careers in the process. So do what you want to do, but just do it in a more disciplined way. But like I said before, I feel like the more and more I see these things, you know, to a certain extent, it's not their fault. They never developed. Like, the gear, the mental gear of doing things with a certain level of discretion and discipline is something that they simply didn't develop for whatever reason. And other guys were fortunate enough to develop it. So they're going to have to learn some kind of way. Hopefully they don't learn the hard way, and hopefully they can acquire that skill and not continue to operate with a certain level of atrophy for very long, because if they do, like you said, he will be out of the league before he should have been.
Yeah, man. You know, hey, so best of luck to you, Stefon, man. Stay off that pink powder, man. You saw what it did to the diddler. It's no good. You know, it sends your life into a different place, and now all of a sudden you got baby oil everywhere. So yeah, man, just be safe, Stefon, out there. But yeah, I don't know, guys. What do y'all think down in the comment section, man? What do you guys feel about the infamous boat trip, Stefon Diggs? Do you feel as though the internet is making too much of this? This is just typical, hey, man, just partying on a boat, and people, that's probably a Kool-Aid pack, right? So what are your guys' thoughts, man? We tripping over here, or should Stefon rein it in a little bit and be a little bit more professional? Love to hear your comments.
It did look like Kool-Aid, pink lemonade flavor.
Pink Kool-Aid, man. Like, y'all tripping, bro. Y'all need to get y'all mind out the gutter.
Hey, man, good luck to Diggs, man. You know, I root for most of these guys, but got to be more careful. And then this is another guy probably who qualifies under similar circumstances, Cam Newton. Cam Newton is opening up about feeling some sort of a guilt or trepidation over the fact that he may have created broken families via the way that he has chosen to, you know, have so many kids with, you know, several different women. And, you know, I guess his conversation with, what's that lady's name? What was the lady's name?
Cheyenne Bryant.
There you go. I guess his conversation with Cheyenne Bryant must have struck a chord with him. Because now Cam Newton is reflecting on you know, personal choices that he's made, you know, how many kids he has and the women that he has them with, and he's reflecting on whether he has you know, created broken families because of how he's chosen to go about doing this. So this says Cam Newton revisits creating broken families criticism. Bleeding in public is tough. Cam Newton revisited a thought that was once shared with him by Cheyenne Bryant about creating broken families by having 8 children with 3 different women. When asked about the biggest tackle he had to get up from, Newton opened up about Bryant's remarks when they spoke on the Let's Be Clear podcast with host Jamal Bryant. It's still a work in progress, he said at the 1 hour 9 minute mark in the above video. Vulnerably, it took something out of me when or when people say I created broken homes and I'm just trying to make my wrongs right. Being a public figure and bleeding in public is tough. So Newton wanted to make it clear that he remains a constant in the lives of his children. Anybody who knows me know I don't play about my kids. I really don't, and I love them. And there's certainly implementations that you only can do if you're on tap, whatever that means. Here is a snippet from this exchange.
It took something out of me when people say I created broken homes. And I'm just trying to make my wrongs right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Being a public figure and bleeding in public is tough.
Yeah.
Because you got to be strong.
Yeah.
I have this saying, where do lions go to lay? Where the eagles go to cry? Where the warriors go to weep? It's tough. But for me, and I see my seeds and things that I work for the reasoning to give them a better life. And when it was identified, I was like, yo, I never thought about it like that. And they so innocent. They didn't ask for this.
Right.
And I would always say, I know right from wrong. I just don't always do right.
Yeah.
Raised in the church, they preachers' kids, they the worst one. I knew that.
And let's see. Cam brought up the criticism earlier in the interview when talking about missing his children while he was playing for the Patriots. Being able to not see my children as much as possible really took a toll on me. And Cam, you got all these kids, all these broken homes. Man, I'm a hands-on father. It was fooling with me. Newton told Bryant during their conversation that he was open to the idea of having more children, but admitted his desire to get married is lower than my fear of divorce. Bryant suggested this particular frame of mind leaves himself open to creating broken families, regardless of his level of involvement in their lives. You are proactively choosing where you want to be active at and where you want to take your time, she said. You want to take your time in having a wife because of your own fears, but you will, and I say this with all respect and love, but you will selfishly create broken families. Even if you're in their lives and you're a proactive father, and I believe you're an amazing dad, but these families are still broken. Every child cannot have Papa in the house with them. So some child, if not all, will end up with some kind of deficit without daddy being there. There's that word, deficit. That word's popping up a lot lately. So what do you think about that? What do you think about Cam reflecting on that, feeling some sort of, I feel like now it's kind of tugging at him. He feels some type of way about this narrative that he's created broken families.
Well, I feel as though, and shout out to Cam Newton, clearly dressed for Pride Month. One thing about what Cheyenne Bryant did to that man is she put a hex on him. And before that interview, I'm pretty sure he didn't consider that a broken family situation. As disjointed as it may have been at times, he didn't consider it broken, and he damn sure wouldn't label it that. However, when you're dealing with an internet witch such as Cheyenne Bryant, they have the ability to cast spells on you. And if you're not a Warlockian man yourself, you could be susceptible to sorcery such as hers. And sure enough, it seems he's literally parroting her talking point by saying that he's running around here creating broken families. Now, one of the things when people are casting these types of things, it grows wings when more people hear about it and know it.
Yeah.
So then there were other people parroting those talking points. There were debates on podcasts such as ours and others where there's this conversation going on about, is Cam Newton out here creating broken families or any other man like him? So it started to grow and it got louder.
Yeah.
It's the pink ooze on Ghostbusters. and it started metastasizing on itself to the point he started hearing it every day. Every time he looked at Junior in the face, he's like, man, your mom's a thought. It's like, of course, you knew that from jump.
Well,
But you
the ooze got on him. That's what happened. You know, when the ooze get on you, then you start acting an ass. That's what happened. the ooze, he got covered in the ooze. That's what happened.
Yeah, man. So now he around here, he's lost. I sat there and I defended Cam Newton, and many other people defended Cam Newton. Now, we didn't know what was going on between those different households or stuff like that, but we clearly saw him be active in all those children's lives. So even though it was different, it was taking on a more modern sense of how these athletes and other guys who do tend to get these women pregnant or whatever, he's still creating a situation where it looked as though he was very active in those kids' life. And if it was a situation where he's breaking mom off with a little this, with a little that, he could afford that lifestyle based on his salary and blase splees, blase blase. So from the outside looking in, it didn't look broken to me. It looked different. And so I saw other people on the internet defending Cam Newton, coming to his defense when Cheyenne Bryant was saying that. But now, like I said, it looks as though it has seeped through his pores to the point where now he's sitting there in front of, pork chop pastor over here and literally sitting there spewing her literal talking points, wondering if he's actually creating a broken home, looking at his kids and going, damn, I did y'all wrong by having this situations, like this. Now, I don't know those women that he was sleeping with. I don't know the caliber of women that they are. All right. They probably are, ladies of the evening, I don't know them. And they probably give him a hard time. Who knows? Okay. But all I know is I didn't hear him speak like this before that interview. And so that's pretty much my take on this. But what are your thoughts, bro, on Sir Cam Newton? Okay. Questioning himself, wondering if he actually created broken homes. What are your thoughts, bro?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Cam has been the victim of an immaculate inception.
Yes.
Yeah. So the idea has been implanted in his mind that he created broken families, and he believes that he is the arbiter of the idea, even though that idea came from an outside source. So the inception was successful. And I think it's unfortunate because I was largely defending him as well. Let me be clear. As a traditionalist, I believe the best environment to rear children in is a nuclear unit with a mother and a father. I believe that those are the best circumstances under which to raise children. After that, healthy co-parenting situations can be just as effective. Are they the most optimal? No, I think the traditional unit is the most optional. But if the parents aren't together, but the co-parenting arrangement is a healthy, positive one, that's good too. What's not good for kids is the nuclear unit is a toxic nuclear unit or a toxic co-parenting setup. So in either one of those scenarios, let's say you're dealing with a nuclear structure, mom and dad married or not, but they're cohabitating at the very least, living in the same house together, and they're trying to raise the kid, but they hate each other. They aren't on the same page. The dynamic between the two of them is degradatious and toxic. That's bad for the kids. And then also what's bad for the kids is if the parents aren't together, but they can't co-parent amicably. That's also bad for the kids. But you don't necessarily need to be together in order for it to be an amicable situation. If it's good, if it's a nuclear unit with the parents in the same household and it's a positive rapport between the two, that is the most optimal. But what is most optimal after that is them not being together, but the co-parenting arrangement being positive. So the reason why I bring all of that up is because even though it's not, in my opinion, the most optimal arrangement, what it appeared to me with Cam was the second most optimal arrangement, which is co-parenting amicably. We didn't hear too much uproar from any of the baby mamas. Like, I mean, I don't hear much from them. I don't hear much from the baby mamas about Cam Newton being a bad dad or not being present or not being available or not being a provider. We don't hear any of that kind of stuff. So there's no fire because I don't smell no smoke. So it looked to me like it was an amicable co-parenting arrangement. Was it unorthodox because of the sheer amount of children? Maybe. But it is what it is. It didn't seem to be, derisive in any kind of way. It seemed fine to me. So for him to be now in this mold where he is wondering whether he created broken families, I believe that he is sort of buying into a lot of the outside speculation that is what he did. Despite the fact that he is someone who's present and doing the best job that one can do in his position. And I do think that that's unfortunate because what would you rather him like? There's far worse alternatives, and if no one's complaining about the level of fatherhood that he is committing himself to, and if no one's saying that he's never around, he's not a good dad, he's not this and he's not that, if I don't hear anything from the mother of any of these kids, I feel like there's nothing to talk about here. That to me is not broken. It's different and it's unorthodox, but it's not broken. Broken to me is co-parenting that is toxic, or you got two parents in the house who are toxic, and so now they're rearing, children in a toxic household. Either one of those scenarios is far worse than what Cam Newton appears to have been doing. So, this is yet another psyop to, I think, paint men in a bad light, to make men always out to be the bad guys whenever there is some sort of a co-parenting situation involved. Because obviously, if there is no nuclear unit, it must be the man's fault. It can't be because it can't be at the very least contributing factors on the part of both individuals that led to this being the state of affairs. It must be men's fault for why there isn't a nuclear unit that is at the head of raising kids in a household. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I don't like it. And I will come to Cam Newton's defense in one more regard. When he said that he is more in fear of marriage than what did he say? He says he fears marriage. He fears divorce more than he wants a wife. I want to read that quote if I can find it. But yeah, he says my desire to get married is lower than my fear of divorce. I hear that, and he sounds like he knows who he is. If he fears divorce reasonably, he must believe that by getting married, the likelihood of a divorce is considerate. And he probably believes that the likelihood of a divorce is considerate because he knows who he is and what he might do, which might eventually lead to a divorce. And so he's not going to enter into that arrangement because he knows what the outcome realistically could be because of how he moves. I think it's, he lives in that energy and he lives in that spirit, which is a separate discussion. But at the very least, he's self-aware enough to know that that's how he's built. And you know how I talk about this on this channel. It's a running theme for me. Guys who know they're not built for marriage shouldn't consider it. Stay out of that. If you know you're not built for that, don't do it. Don't do it to conform to some sort of a societal norm. If you're not built for it, stay away. And you know if you're built for it. So he's self-aware and he knows he's not built for it. So he's doing the right thing by not entering into the contract, albeit having 8 children from 3 different women. Is it unconventional? Sure. But like I said, if no one's complaining about him as a dad and I haven't seen anything, maybe if there's people who see this video, they can put it in the comments to where I may have missed something where there was some complaining or some acrimony going on from one of the mothers of his children. I haven't seen such a thing. But as far as I know, there hasn't been any of that kind of back and forth going on where, people are accusing him of being a horrible grade father. So if that's not the case, there are certainly worse circumstances for a father to be raising children under, and he is nowhere close to that. So it's
And
unfortunate that he is buying into this idea now that he may have overtly created broken families.
yeah, well said, bro. And I think that he's also fallen into this area where I think he feels like as though he bit off more than he can chew with all of these kids. So by him, even though the article said that he's still open to having more, I think he's in a situation where he's seeing that without all of these NFL dollars, the lifestyle he's created for himself, um, wasn't very practical long term when you have so many mouths to feed, um, with different women, and keeping everybody happy. And that's why we've seen him on ESPN and other things, reality TV shows, doing all kinds of stuff, to figuratively keep the lights on. Um, so I think as far as because all of this stuff, where do I go? Where does a lion go to lay? The lion lays in the savannah, bro. It lays right there, bro. Where the warriors go to weep. It's like, come on, bro. So, all of this Crimea River stuff, but this is the same thing that when we covered before when he was on that reality show, jumping off helicopters, talking about he's doing this so he can feel like Superman again and again for his kids, and so this guy's got a lot of stuff going on when it comes to living up to how he was when he was in the NFL. So I think that goes financially and other ways where he thought he was that guy, when he was in the league. And now that he's not doing all of this stuff anymore, now that those checks aren't coming in the way that they used to, he finds himself in a position where he's like, man, this is a challenge.
Yeah.
And this is my challenge. Nobody else can say anything because I'm the one that went this far down the road, So I think part of him is also having a realization of how expensive this is, literally when it comes to money, and figuratively for all that energy he has to give to all of these youngins to say that he's actually involved in their life. So he has to give a lot of himself from doing it like this. So I think a lot of that is where this stuff is coming from too. But honestly, I've seen, like I agree with you in a sense that you don't really hear much as far as drama is concerned coming from that side of the camp. If we hear anything, it's literally coming from Cam Newton.
Mm-hmm.
So, but every time I see the youngins with him, they seem to be having a good time or whatever, So I think he's involved enough. But hey, man, I agree with you, man. This is dangerous rhetorics. Keep this in your deep dark thoughts, bro. I don't think the internet needs to hear this at this moment. But because men, even if we don't do it conventionally, as you said, I think even though he's not doing it conventionally, I'm not in their house, so I don't know what's going on. But aesthetically, from the outside looking in, it looks as though he's handling his business.
Yeah.
So if you're doing that, even though it's broken in traditional sense, but in your standard and in your non-standard sense, okay, you seem to be handling it well.
Right.
So I think it's correct over there. I think it's X over here, green over there. So you're green. So I don't think you should be crying on this guy's couch. So
yeah, I mean there are not far more, but there are a lot of examples of households where the father is physically present every day, and those kids are going to grow up screwed up because they, even though the dad was around every day, it was a toxic environment.
mm-hmm.
Parents staying together for the kids, but they otherwise hate each other. They are, separated in mind and spirit, maybe not physically separated, but they're separated in mind and spirit. They are not on the same page. They are not on one accord. They have different ideas and levels of commitment when it comes to the kids. And so even though they're together in the same house and he's physically around them every day, that kid is going to be way worse off than Cam Newton's kids, albeit the fact that he isn't with them physically every day because he's in multiple co-parenting situations. So it's not a one-size-fits-all scenario. And like I said, optimally, in my opinion, the most optimal setup is a healthy nuclear unit where both parents are physically present each day. That is the most optimal scenario. But if you don't have that, having them physically present every day can still be a negative. And having pops not be physically every day isn't necessarily ideal, but it's better than him being around and them being reared in a toxic environment. So if we're not hearing anything about it being toxic between, when it comes to the rapport between him and the mother of his kids, and again, maybe I need to do some more digging, but I tend to be hearing stuff. And so if I ain't heard it, that means it ain't around. And I ain't heard it. So, for him to be accepting of this notion that he has to hold himself accountable for creating broken families, from the sense that it's not traditional, perhaps, but, it nevertheless is doing him a disservice, because if he's actively involved as much as he can be, while also still being a provider, albeit being a co-parenting situation, I wouldn't go so far as to characterize it as he created broken families, because that phrasing just sounds so negative and ominous. Like the connotation that comes along with, in my opinion, paints him in a negative light. I created broken families. That's a tough pill to swallow. If the kids are happy, it's not as broken. There are certainly scenarios where it can be far worse than that if the kids are screwed up or unhappy, even if he was around. So, people need to kind of look at it that way.
Well said, bro. But hey, what do you guys think down in the comment section, guys? Do you agree with Cam Newton? Now, this is his life, but do you guys agree with him just because he had a situation in a non-traditional fashion? All right. Do you feel as though it's a broken family? You feel as though he's creating broken families, or you just think it's non-traditional? I'm on the side of it's just not traditional. I don't think it's necessarily broken, from the outside looking in. But what do you guys think down in the comment section? We'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, if you take it literally, yes, it's broken families. If you're taking the words literally, if you're getting into semantics, then fine. Yeah, he created broken families.
Yeah, the Cheyenne Bryant strikes again.
Immaculate inception. That's what I call that.
Got his ass good, boy.
And now we are going to get into hip hop OGs Fat Joe and Jadakiss, who have a podcast together. I did not know this. I wasn't aware that they have a show together. But during a recent episode of their podcast, they got onto the subject of rappers who live paycheck to paycheck. And they essentially, despite the lavish lifestyle that they portray for themselves publicly, they have to keep working to keep the money coming in order to pay bills, because they are living paycheck to paycheck. Literally, that's what they said. These rappers live paycheck to paycheck. So, where are you at, Fat Joe and Jadakiss? Here it is. So this says Fat Joe and Jadakiss discuss record labels not helping artists. The whole system been a scam. So yeah, they also got onto the subject of streaming metrics and artists not being paid, and also artists not being supported by their record labels too. Essentially, basically calling the entire apparatus of the music industry a joke. On the latest episode of Joe and Jada, rappers Fat Joe and Jadakiss spoke about rappers living paycheck to paycheck and how record labels ripped off artists. Around the 31-minute point of the podcast, as seen above, Joe questioned why Tupac's record label never shelled out the money to bail him out of jail, despite him being the most popular rapper in the world at the time. Joe argued that at the time, Tupac didn't have the necessary funds to be bailed out without the help of Suge Knight, who later signed him to Death Row Records. He suggested that even the biggest artists are often living paycheck to paycheck because they're spending more because of their success. Joe asked if artists working while they're still in their 80s is because they love it or if they need to pay the bills. I'm purposely skipping the quotes because we're going to play the video. He said that regardless of how much rappers are making, there will always be more bills to pay. He also reflected on how the music industry has changed so that the music is a stepping stone now, with artists having to become entrepreneurs and make money in other ways. So here we go. So let me get off of this and let me present here. So this is a snippet of this exchange between Fat Joe and Jadakiss in which they are talking about this.
Check. You think you check the check? You working every day, check the check. We check the check. If we buying $300,000 watches, homes, and everywhere, we check
That's why
the
you
check.
gotta keep working.
That's why you got to keep working.
Everybody is so rich, and why they fucking still working? You gotta fucking work.
You got kids in college. You got all type of
shit going on. Yeah,
mortgages. You got car notes. You got shit like
they don't stop. The bills don't stop.
The bills keep coming. I don't care.
The bills is coming now.
The bills is coming now. The train is coming. And so what happens is, I don't care how much money we make. It's almost like shampoo. The shit just slipped through your fingers. I'm not safe. I'm keeping it real with you. I am not safe with no amount of money. You don't know how many times I made $1 million and that shit was gone in like a month or two. And it's just regular shit. Yo, pay the lawyer, pay your insurance, pay this.
Repeat process.
Just this, that. And then you turn around and it's like, yo, where's the bread? Yo, bro. You know, Louis Vuitton ain't cheap, bro. All that shit you doing out here looking cute, it ain't cheap. And so there's always a check to check. I don't care how much money you make.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Let me see. I did also want to touch on the part where they talked about like streaming and stuff. Mm-hmm. How the F is it with all of this streaming and all that? Is definitely more money, said Jada, questioning how artists appear to make less money in the streaming era. The way the streaming works is they actually pay you less, said Joe, recalling how he used to go out and buy physical releases. The numbers don't matter. 1,500 streams is one spin or one record sale or something. Whoever the F made that up, they hate us, Joe agreed. The whole system been a scam from the beginning. The math never added up with the record labels. So there you go. So yeah, what do you think about that exchange between these two guys and them talking about these rappers living paycheck to paycheck and the fact that they got to keep working in order to continue to pay the bills and keep the lights on?
Well, you already know Fat Joe is on my shark list. All right. Yeah. You know, Mr. lied in 95% of my rhymes. He didn't lie here, though.
Right.
Here, these were straight facts. Yes, I'll start with the music industry itself being a scam, you know, especially since it moved over to streaming. Now, they were already ripping off artists back when they had vinyls, back when they had CDs and cassettes. Okay, they was ripping people off back then. But once they came up with the advent of streaming, that is the best finesse the industry has ever come up with to make sure that these guys don't get a dime. All right. Because like they said, you know, in that clip, we didn't play that one, but there's a clip out there with them talking about the streaming. And, you know, Fat Joe said, hey, he'll buy a lock CD or whatever, and he'll play it as many times as, you know, it would allow basically. But, you know, once it break or he lost it or somebody else got it or something like that, you know, he would just go buy another one, you know. But, you know, he would listen to the songs all the time or whatever. And, you know, it's like a pattern of, you know, you will always buy from the artist. But he said now with this streaming type of thing where, you know, you can just have it into perpetuity. You can just listen to one song into perpetuity. And even if you listen to that song 15,000 times, 20,000 times, That's still going to equate to one album sale, you know. And so their whole thing was like, you know, and that's when Jadakiss was like, hey, who said that this many spins equals one album sale? And we talked about that before when we were talking about the music industry. And I know that these guys in their circles talk about it. And so here they were clearly talking about it in the sense that, yeah, man, those guys were getting jerked back then, but they're really not seeing those checks now, which spills over into this next conversation where they're sitting there talking about, hey, man, we live check to check just like anybody else. That's why they got a podcast. That's why they're sitting there podcasting.
Absolutely, yeah.
Those checks ain't coming in no more. You know what I'm saying? And they can drop an album, you know, this year, next year, or whatever. Those numbers ain't gonna do what they did back in whatever, you know, back in 99, back in 2006, because these are different times. So you know, so somebody can play the hell out of Jadakiss' new album if he came out with something. You're gonna get like $2 off of that. It's a finesse. So they gotta find other ways to do it. They gotta be on the road. They gotta do shows. And last thing I'll say is, yeah, him sitting there talking about Louis Vuitton and stuff. Well, nobody told you to live like that.
Right.
And so, and this goes into what I said before in previous conversations where, hey man, you have to live as far as your means allow, you know. And if your income after you finish paying your lawyers and helping out family and doing all this other stuff in there, you know, if you can't afford Louis Vuitton no more, okay, that's fine. You know, you get you some, you know, you can still afford something fresh, but you just can't have all that fly stuff and be a rapper. But these guys were in the heyday of being a rapper, you know, buying all of this stuff, living beyond your means. So these guys have a habit and a lifestyle that they need to continue to pay for. So no wonder they're living check to check, even though some of their checks may be better than the average person. So yeah, they found themselves in a purgatory loop, and they're still going. You know, these guys will still be doing shows after they're long dead, because once their holograms come out and do shows for them, you know, just for their family to eat, I guess. But what are your thoughts, man, on Fat Joe and Jadakiss out here saying that, first of all, the music industry itself is a scam, and that even though they're big baller rappers, they still got to live check to check like the rest of us? What are your thoughts, bro?
Well, yeah, the music industry being what it is nothing new. You know, look, man, it's very few ways to not be an employee. You know, it's hard to remove yourself ultimately from the hamster wheel. It's not easy. That's why there's only a small percentage of the population that is successful in business and entrepreneurship. You know, anyone can do it per se, but it's not super easy. And even if you're able to get it off the ground within the first 5 years, what's the percentage of businesses that fail? It's a very high percentage. So it's just hard to escape the rat race. And yeah, you can be a rapper, an actor, you can be an artist, you can be a pro athlete, you can be you can be a football player, a basketball player, an international soccer star, a baseball player. You're still an employee. You're just a high paid, glorified one, but you're still an employee. And what is one thing that all employees have in common? They got to go to work. It's crazy. I know we don't necessarily think of rappers as employees, but when you sign a record deal or you're beholden to an agreement or a contract which says you got to perform this many shows, or this percentage of your music sales goes here and this percentage of your music sales goes there, and you have a responsibility to make this appearance here and do this thing there, you're an employee having to clock in and go to work in those instances. Theoretically, it isn't exactly the same as me showing up to work every day to earn my salary, but in practice, pragmatically, it's not that much different. You're beholden to something that's telling you you're obligated to do something in order to earn your living. And the percentage of people who are removed from that are the people who are paying these rappers. You know what I'm saying? It's like the NFL and the NBA and professional athletes in general. They're employees. Are they well paid? Absolutely. But they're employees. You know who's not the employee? The person who owns the team. That guy is not an employee. You know? So I remember a classic line from Chris Rock where he said, you know, there's a difference between rich and wealthy. Shaq is rich, but the white man who signs his checks is wealthy. Yeah. That's how this thing goes, man. Shaq is an employee. See, we here on the ground surface level, comparing ourselves to millionaires, we want to be where the millionaire is, because if we're going to be employees, we'd rather be rich employees. But don't make the mistake of thinking that just because you're a millionaire, that you're not an employee, or that you're somehow removed from some of the constraints inherent in being an employee. These people are employees, and rappers are getting skimmed off the top. Just like a pro athlete who has to sign a lesser deal because they couldn't get a better deal on the open market or whatever the case may be. They're employees who have to take what they can get because of what the market will bear. And if they want to remove themselves from that environment, they have to think of other creative ways to let their money work for itself. That's why you see people like Rihanna. Rihanna don't make music no more. She don't give a damn. Everybody's sitting there wondering when Rihanna's gonna make her next album. She ain't thinking about that. She making too much money off of that lingerie stuff that she got going on. Yep. Her beauty line, like, you know, she was able to parlay her music career into that. But now that she's in that space, why the hell would she go back to that grind? Right. Like at that point, she's in a position where she will only make music if she feels like it. Because she just wants to do it, but she doesn't need it. And it's crazy to think that, because these guys outwardly portray a life for themselves, which would suggest that they're living it, that they're living a high life, but they're beholden to something that's telling them they got to keep doing shows. They got to keep working. And from that standpoint, you're an employee just like me. Yeah, you are living paycheck to paycheck just like me, because there is something that is demanding that you need to clock in and go to work. So, you know, these guys need to be better, bro. And now one thing that I will say, because essentially what this boils down to is a referendum on financial literacy. Correct. Which is correlated to the point that you made about living within your means, because that's you know, that ties into being financially literate, is knowing how to live within your means. But maybe don't buy the mansion if you know that that's beyond your means. Maybe don't buy the $1 million car if you know that you have to slave away doing show after show in order to maintain the upkeep on that or to make those payments. If you don't want to be on the grind, then don't set yourself up to require that you be on the grind. Correct. And that part is on them. Yes. 100%. That part is on them. You know, but look, you know, it is what it is, man. They come up in that atmosphere and they feel as though they have to do these things. You know, and that's where more modest rappers have the advantage. That's where people like Currency and J. Cole have an advantage, because they don't maintain the ideology or the mentality that they have to live up to that moniker. So for them, living within their means is an easier feat to achieve, because they aren't caught up in that wave of being a superstar. Right. And for the rest of these rappers who are caught up in that wave of being a superstar, you damn right, y'all gonna be touring 24/7. You know, so good luck, because, you know, I guess financial literacy isn't cool enough for a lot of these guys. They feel like they got to keep doing this stuff. But yeah, you're gonna be Rod Stewart, like Jadakiss said. You're gonna be 80 years old doing Vegas residencies. Yes. You think Usher does a Vegas residency because he doesn't need the money? Right, exactly. And like, look, I'm a fan of Usher, but if Usher really didn't need the paper, he would not maintain a residency. Because the convenient thing about a residency is, you know, you got them shows booked. Right. You know what I'm saying? It's baked into the bread of the arrangement. And you don't got to bounce around from one city to the next. Correct. You know, exhausted all the time. You can just stay your behind in Las Vegas and perform show after show.
Yeah, and you can drop cherries in random mouth, bro.
Yeah. So like as much as I got a lot of respect for Usher, I'm an Usher fan, but Usher does that because he needs the money.
No,
Now, does he enjoy performing, and does he like, is he a performer? Is it in his heart? Does he love performing? I would imagine so. But does he need the money? Yes, he does.
Yeah.
He does. And that's why a lot of these people do reality television, because they need the money.
Yep.
So it ain't always rainbows and unicorns for all y'all out there who be believing the hype from some of these goofy rappers. And I remember Scarface. Scarface was on Freeway. Freeway had a track on his album. I think it was called Free at Last. I think it's from 2006. Scarface was on one of those songs, and Scarface said, "I don't want to be another joke, 55 doing concerts, relying on a show. So I stack my green to match my means. I'm straight Jewish. When people spent money, I ain't do it." How many people really think you balling in the eyes of the public, but really didn't get to touch it? And and you see, like, Scarface, he's a legend. And, I would imagine he's done well enough for himself financially that he does not have to be 55 years old, still running around doing shows all the time. And so if that's your ultimate goal, is to not be working like a dog, and you'd rather be enjoying the fruits of all the labor that you put in, you should set yourself up for that. But tell that to a lot of these rappers. And at this point, age is inconsequential to this narrative, because these guys are 40, 50 years old, and they're still having to work like a dog doing shows all the time.
Crazy.
It's not just the young buck rappers, it's the older people too. Young Buck, Freudian slip, because he's in that same category. So it is what it is, man. Good luck to a lot of these guys, man. You would think that they would learn from the mistakes of some of their peers and contemporaries, but a lot of them keep digging themselves in this hole. And I'd like to see them crawl out of it, but their mentality won't allow them to.
Yeah, I agree, man. And you would think they would have learned from being in the game so long, that there was that at some point down the road, especially when your relevancy started to wane a little bit, for you to change how you live. Stop trying to be a rapper, especially if you're considered an OG in the game. You don't need to carry or conduct yourself in these particular ways anymore, but you'll still see them, blinged out. You'll still see them, pull up in something, I'm sure, wearing Louis this, Gucci that, just to say, I'm pulling up in something cleaner than you. That's like, come on, bro. My Timbs don't have a stain on them, and I got outfits in my closet I don't even wear, just so they can say rapper shit. So with that comes the fact that now you do have to tour. And some of these guys, I'm pretty sure they do enjoy the tour, because, the people in the crowd that give you that energy, I'm pretty sure there's a part of it that some of these guys would tour anyway. Like you said, there's probably a love of the game, especially Usher, dangling cherries in people's mouths. There's a part of the game that I'm pretty sure they enjoy. It's like hooping, I'm sure. You know what I'm saying? So just to go out there to get a sweat, I'm sure they're not opposed to that. But the people that is Aretha Franklin out there performing in her 60s, 70s, it's like, all right, at some point something has to give. And I know you're bringing in enough from these shows to live a little bit more modestly. But at some point that doesn't happen. So yeah, you are at this point, for these veteran rappers, they are creating their own slavery, in a sense that you don't have to live that way. You don't have to live in New York if the rent's high or whatever's high there or whatever. Like y'all have so many options at y'all disposal that y'all don't have to be this paycheck to paycheck merchant. But here you are doing that. So now I know that there's enough. All right, they get paid more than you would hope than a salary person in New York. You would hope they get more than that. But I mean, I don't know, man. They're doing podcasts, so maybe not.
Well, Fat Joe said he said it in that video clip. I live paycheck to paycheck. He already said it.
But that's what I'm saying. Paycheck to paycheck is different than our
relatively. I know, in relative term.
I hope they get paid more than the average salary worker in New York. That's my thing.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. Well, he said it's relative. So he was like, I made $1 million or $2 million and it was gone in 2 days or however he said.
Yeah.
So it's a different tier, but it's paycheck to paycheck within that tier.
Well, I hope he got it. That's what I'm saying. I hope. My thing is, I guess, relatively speaking, is what I mean. Because if you gotta sit down and do a podcast, that podcast ain't paying you. That's what I'm saying. So I mean, Cam and Mace, they making good money. I guess they're just trying to Cam and Mace their way up, and say, hey man, there's YouTube dollars out there and whatever. But my thing is that you sitting around here doing I hope the podcast pay you as much. I guess that's why I wanted to get at.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Podcasts pay you more than whatever. Because I'm telling you right now, if they got to sit there and do that and do this, because Fat Joe be on everything. He's talking more than he ever rapped. So he's clearly kind of trying to get back to the bag. But hey, man, it is what it is with these dudes. Live within your means, and this is for anybody, man. I know I get used to a lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? But if I have to change jobs or something else happen, man, my grocery runs won't be the same, man. But I'm gonna be all right. You know what I'm saying? But you got to live within your means, man. So for these rappers where the paychecks ain't what they used to be a little bit long ago, you can curtail that so you don't have to live check to check. So I guess best of luck to these guys and best of luck to their podcast. I mean, I would love to hear Jadakiss talk because every time, he's a mystery man to me. So I want to hear what he got to say about stuff.
Well, they got a lot of competition, that's for sure.
Yeah, they got the conscious approach out there, man. Like what they talking about?
Good luck, man, because they got it is what it is. They got drink champs. They got a lot of competition. Every rapper now, well, every other rapper.
Yeah, I want to hear that though. I want to hear Jadakiss.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Good luck to them. I'm with you on that one, but man, stiff competition, and it's tough to feel like you gotta get into the podcast game in order to, keep up your momentum, because that is certainly an oversaturated market. Take it from someone who knows it. All right. That's gonna do it, man. Once again, JV Wins Doggone SS, another fantastic edition of Conscious Approaches in the books. We thank everybody who tuned in. Major shout out to Marcus Dudley as always. And major shouts out to the brother Marcus Dudley for the super chat. Our second super chat all time. He is certainly the biggest friend of the channel there is.
Absolutely.
Follow us on Instagram at ConApproach, ConApproach. I am also on Instagram at JVWins, JVWINS. Check out the Conscious Approach page on TikTok, also at ConApproach, ConApproach. Check us out on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. So if you are not in position to check out the videos, if you at work and you don't want to get caught watching videos, pop the headphones in and check us out on those podcast channels. We are available there as well. And as always, man, I like to say, have a mind of your own. Don't be a group thinker. Think for yourself. That is what this is all about. And until next time, we thank everybody for the support. We thank everybody for hitting that like button. We thank everybody for leaving those comments and subscribing to any of our content. And until next time, we'll see you later.
And the name is Doggone SS. And you can find me on Instagram at Doggone_SS, on YouTube, DraftKings, TikTok. Hey, man, social media platform out there, Dogon_SS is out there. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, follow, and all that good stuff. Them there. All right. And as JV Wins mentioned, all right, we greatly appreciate you guys. All right, watching, liking, subscribing, consciously leaving comments and all that good stuff. Hey man, we couldn't do this stuff without y'all. And honestly, without y'all juicing us up, bro, I don't even know if we would have the momentum to come back out here every week and crush it as we does. So thank you, everybody, even the shadow people that's lurking. I see you and I appreciate you. All right. And as I say on every pod, guys, all right, don't be too high, don't be too low. Keep it calm, keep it chill, keep it plugged. And don't let anybody get you off your pivot. So until the next time, everybody, more rings and Robert the Ori. We'll see y'all in the next episode.
You. That's right, folks. Peace in the Middle East. We'll see y'all next week. Thanks for watching. And hey man, shouts out to Caitlin Clark too, man. They headhunting that girl. Leave Caitlin Clark alone, man.
Hey, man. Stop the violence.
Yeah. We out. Shouts out to everybody on the chat. Thank you very much. We'll see you next week. Peace. Signing off.
You already know what it is, bruh.